Chapter 423. The trial of the ancient desolate tower is about to begin. Could it have something to do with Jiang Zimo and Xiaoxian's matter? Xiao Chen opened his eyes. Xiao Chen revealed great interest in the topic everyone was talking about. So, he decided to ask about it. Young hero, it is your turn. At this moment, a charming young girl walked over leisurely and softly said with a smile. Xiao Chen could only give up for now. However, now that he knew the clues to the ancient desolate tower, it would be easier for him to find out more information when he came out. Xiao Chen stood up and followed the maidservant into a treasure inspection hall in front. When the cultivator in green who spoke first saw Xiao Chen suddenly stand up, he entered deep thought. Earlier, when Xiao Chen was sitting there, he did not attract his attention. However, when the cultivator looked at Xiao Chen's back, he started to think. They are all white-robed cultivators, inferior grade martial kings, and no older than 20. Unfortunately, I do not see his saber. It should be in his spatial ring. The cultivator in green thought to himself, I should follow him closely. If he is really a bladesman, it is very likely that he is that person. Inside the treasure inspection hall, an old man was drinking tea. When he saw Xiao Chen enter, he smiled and said, I am the Flowing Wind Pavilion's old ma. Young hero, are you selling something? Take it out and let me see. Xiao Chen nodded and did not say anything. He pointed the universe ring at the center of the hall, and a large pile of items fell like rain. When the noise stopped, there was a 1-meter-tall pile of miscellaneous items in the hall. Old Ma nearly spat out the tea in his mouth. Old Ma swallowed the tea with some difficulty. His expression was somewhat unsightly as he said, Little brother, are you here to cause trouble? What kind of place is my Flowing Wind Pavilion? To think that you're using a pile of street goods to brush me off. Clearly, the other party did not think that all these items were valuable. He felt that Xiao Chen was here to make fun of him. Xiao Chen sat down calmly and said, Whether they are street goods or not, you will know when you see for yourself. Seeing how confident Xiao Chen was, Senior Ma hesitated for a moment before squatting down dubiously. Then he casually picked up a bottle of pills and looked at it. When Xiao Chen opened the bottle, a fragrance wafted out. Old Ma took a deep breath, and his expression changed. He said, This is a rank 6 medicinal pill, an earth spirit pill. When consumed by a martial saint, it can greatly increase their cultivation. It is worth 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. As he spoke, he quickly picked up a yellowing secret manual and read it. This is an inferior grade, earth-ranked cultivation technique. It can be used until Martial King. It is worth 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. There are also 10 low-grade earth-ranked spirit weapons. This is a 300-year-old snow ginseng. This is a battle armor. This is a high-grade earth-ranked martial technique. And this is a low-grade secret treasure. With every sentence that Xiao Chen spoke, Senior Ma's expression changed. How is this something that could be found in a street stall? He had really misjudged it earlier. Although the value of each item wasn't top-notch, a single one of them couldn't pique his interest at all. However, looking at the quantity, there were at least 1,000 of them. When added together, the value was startling. With so many miscellaneous items on one person, this person either robbed a strong clan or killed many high-rank cultivators. Senior Ma's thoughts raced. When he saw that Xiao Chen was not even 20 years old, no matter which one it was, this youth's strength was unfathomable. He was not as simple as he looked. Senior Ma no longer delayed Xiao Chen like before. He stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. He said, Sorry for the offense earlier. This old man misjudged it. I hope little brother does not take it to heart. Xiao Chen said indifferently, It's not a problem. Just help me appraise them quickly. I only do business. I do not care about anything else. It was unrealistic to rely on Senior Ma to appraise so many items by himself. Senior Ma called over a maidservant and gave her some instructions. After 1 hour, 10 young appraisers came out from the back door of the appraisal hall. Senior Ma explained they were transferred from another branch. Don't worry. Don't look down on them because they are young. They should have no problems dealing with your items. Xiao Chen nodded and did not have any objections. 2 hours later, under the laborious appraisal of 10 appraisers, The various miscellaneous items in the forest were finally appraised. The 10 appraisers from the other branches took their leave. Now, only Xiao Chun and Senior Ma remained in the appraisal hall. Holding a list, Senior Ma looked somewhat fatigued. He said to Xiao Chun, "Little brother, take a look. They're worth a total of 3 million inferior grade spirit stones. If converted to medial grade spirit stones, that would be 25,000. These are the rules. You should know about them." Xiao Chun looked through the list and indicated that he had no objections. As for the so-called rules, Xiao Chun already knew about them long ago. Naturally, he would not say anything. Senior Ma smiled gently and said, "That's good. Take out your ancient desolate pass. We will sign it, and the spirit stones will be yours immediately." When Xiao Chun heard this, he could not help but be stunned. He had not expected the transaction to require an ancient desolate pass. He could not help but feel somewhat depressed. "I have not gone to apply for an ancient desolate pass yet. Can I make the transaction?" Senior Ma frowned slightly, clearly stunned. This youth had just arrived in the ancient desolate land. He had not even applied for an ancient desolate pass. This is a little difficult. It is not that this old man is making things difficult for you, but without an ancient desolate pass for such a large transaction, the taxes will be very high, Senior Ma explained softly. Since it was just a matter of money, then it was easy to resolve. Xiao Chun said, "How about this? Give me the receipt for 25,000 medial grade spirit stones. I will only take 20,000 medial grade spirit stones. How about that?" The miscellaneous items in this transaction could be considered extra gains for Xiao Chun. It did not matter how much he earned. It would be troublesome to apply for an ancient desolate pass later. Senior Ma understood. He knew why Xiao Chun was so generous. This pile of treasures must have been obtained from killing others. Now, he was in a rush to make a move. However, Senior Ma still reminded Xiao Chun, "You have to think it through. It will take you less than half a day to apply for an ancient desolate pass. You will be able to save 5,000 medial grade spirit stones." Xiao Chun shook his head and said, "There is no need. I have already made up my mind." After the two signed the contract, Senior Ma immediately took out boxes of spirit stones for Xiao Chun's account. After checking with his spiritual sense, Xiao Chun confirmed that the numbers were correct. Then he tossed them into his universe ring. With this, Xiao Chun's universe ring became much emptier. He now had more than 150,000 medial grade spirit stones, 1 million inferior grade spirit stones, and 100 invaluable superior grade spirit stones. After leaving the inspection hall, Xiao Chun looked around. He saw that the cultivator in green had not left yet. Furthermore, when the cultivator saw Xiao Chun come out, his eyelids twitched. That's not right. A regular transaction would not take more than 15 minutes. Logically speaking, he should have left long ago. Xiao Chun noticed that the cultivators he was chatting with earlier had already left. All that remained were cultivators he was unfamiliar with. He knows about the situation on Boulder Island. He must be suspicious of me. Xiao Chun kept this in mind. His expression did not change as he walked down the stairs. Not long after Xiao Chun left the flowing wind pavilion, his spiritual sense immediately detected a figure following him. It was that cultivator in green. This person is a superior grade martial king. If he sneak attacks me, he will pose a threat to me. However, since I've already noticed him, it is not a big deal. Coincidentally, he should know about the ancient desolate tower. If he tries to harm me, I can capture him and ask him about it. Thinking of this, Xiao Chun's lips curled up in an arc. He walked forward unhurriedly, pretending that he did not know anything. Soon, Xiao Chun arrived at a rather desolate alley. When he saw the surrounding people and the desolate environment, he nodded slightly. This is the place. Bang! Just at this moment, 4 ferocious tiger-race cultivators leaped out from both sides of the alley. They were tall and strong, and they surrounded Xiao Chun from all directions. They were more than 2 meters tall, blocking the sunlight and casting a large shadow. They were the tiger race cultivators that Xiao Chun had offended earlier. The tiger race cultivator that Jiang Zimo forced back earlier was filled with killing chi. He walked over to Xiao Chun and smiled coldly. "Brat, I told you to hand over 2,000 medial grade spirit stones first, but you did not. Now, I will chop off one of your legs and let you know what regret is. Is that so? Unfortunately, you are not able to do that. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. Jiang Zimo was right. With a flip of his palm, the lunar shadow saber instantly appeared in his hand. The 4 tiger race cultivators were all medial-grade martial kings. When they worked together, they were quite strong. Unfortunately, with one look, it was clear that these people were not the core cultivators of the fiend race. They had not practiced any strong martial techniques or cultivation techniques. When Xiao Chun used his full power, they did not stand a chance. After 15 minutes, the 4 tiger race cultivators lay on the ground, moaning nonstop. Occasionally, electricity flickered on the wounds of various sizes on their bodies. Following Jiang Zimo's instructions, Xiao Chun did not deal a heavy blow. Although their wounds looked horrifying, they did not injure any vital points. He only taught them a lesson. Scram. I will only obey Jiang Zimo's words once. Don't let me see you again. Xiao Chun returned the lunar shadow saber to its scabbard and snorted coldly. The tiger race cultivators felt like they had been relieved of a heavy burden. They knew they had kicked a metal plate, so they quickly got up and fled. Not bad. What a beautiful saber technique. Even when fighting 1 against 4, you were still able to hold an overwhelming advantage. At some point in time, the cultivator in green was already standing on the wall of the alley. The sunlight shone down from his back, obscuring his appearance. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, "After following me for so long, you finally could not endure it any longer." The cultivator in green shrugged his shoulders. He was not surprised that Xiao Chun noticed him. He asked, "Did you go to Boulder Island a week ago?" Xiao Chun did not answer the cultivator in green's question directly. He took out the peak high-rank Blood Demon's demon core from his universe ring and said, "You want this, right?" The cultivator in green smiled and said, "Very good. You can die now. I will hand your head to the Holy Fire Manor and exchange it for a bounty. That will allow you to make the most of your value." After he spoke, the cultivator in green leaped down from the wall and chopped twice in the air. A sharp palm wind flew at Xiao Chun like a sharp saber. Xiao Chun drew the lunar shadow saber again. Purple electricity flickered as he chopped the palm wind in half. "Huge whale palm!" The cultivator in green shouted, and a faint mist appeared in the surroundings. The ground of the alley turned into soft water, rippling continuously. Xiao Chun lost his balance and started to sway along with the water. What a powerful state of water. This person is not an ordinary superior grade martial king. No wonder he is so confident. Chapter 424. A huge whale made of quintessence appeared behind the green-robed guest. He pulled it out with his palm strike. The huge whale opened its jaws, revealing sharp teeth that gleamed with a cold light. Then it charged at Xiao Chun. The green-robed guest was very confident in this palm strike. He believed that with this palm strike, he would be able to kill Xiao Chun quickly. The green-robed guest had already practiced this palm strike to 100% perfection. Furthermore, he cultivated the state of water. With these two complementing each other, the might of this move would be able to display 1/12 of its might. Not only was it very mighty, but the strong, mysterious phenomenon would also break the opponent's movement technique, preventing them from dodging. Several cultivators stronger than the green-robed guest had died under this palm strike. Even if an inferior grade martial king could block it, he would be severely injured. Xiao Chun circulated his vital qi and rooted himself to the ground. He instantly increased his weight by 50,000 kilograms. Then, he firmly planted himself to the ground without any fluctuations. When Xiao Chun saw the huge whale flying at him, he did not dare to be careless. He circulated his state of thunder to its limits, and thunder roared in the sky. Wu Kuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chun shouted and hacked down with the lunar shadow saber. The divine Wu Kuei tree was like a mountain. It carried a boundless electric energy as it clashed with the huge whale. Of the Wu Kuei saber techniques, Wu Kuei shakes the heavens was the strongest move when clashing head-on. There were no techniques involved. It simply turned the vast state of thunder into a strong force. The stronger the state and the denser the essence, the stronger the might of this move. Since the other party wanted to clash head-on, then Xiao Chun would give him this opportunity. Let's see who was stronger. Bang! The huge whale, made of quintessence, clashed with the divine Wukuei tree. A strong force immediately burst forth. Thunder and water roared, and the walls of the alley immediately crumbled. The huge whale, made of essence, lasted for a moment before it scattered. However, the light of Xiao Chen's Wukuei tree dimmed slightly, but it did not disappear. The Wukuei tree landed on the ground with a pa sound. The rippling ground also calmed down. The other party's state of water was broken. The green-robed cultivator paled. He took a few steps back before he came to a stop. He could not believe that Xiao Chun had broken his palm strike. The green-robed cultivator suppressed the surging essence in his body and smiled coldly. You have some strength. No wonder you can strengthen that demon core. However, you still have to die. Wild dance of whales. Waves of water instantly appeared on the ground. Those were not illusions, but real waves of water. Xiao Chun frowned slightly when he saw his pants soaked by the waves. He pushed off the ground, wanted to fly out. However, he discovered that there seemed to be a pair of invisible hands in the water grabbing his legs. More than 100 whales made of essence appeared behind the azure-robed cultivator. They hissed as their auras merged and soared into the sky. This chaotic dance of whales is comparable to an inferior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. I can only use it once every 3 months. Unless you're a half-step martial monarch, you can forget about breaking out. Die. This chaotic dance of whales is comparable to an inferior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. I can only use it once every 3 months. Unless you're a half-step martial monarch, you can forget about breaking out. Die. The green-robed cultivator laughed maniacally. More than 100 whales made of essence covered the sky as they flew toward Xiao Chun. The scarlet throne mark on Xiao Chun's forehead immediately appeared. His aura also changed. The state of massacre started to merge with the lightning. The purple and red lights on the lunar shadow saber flickered continuously. Kassier. The saber hovered above the water for a while. There was a flash of saber light, and the formless hands around Xiao Chen's legs were instantly chopped in half. State of massacre. The green-robe cultivator was startled. He quickly controlled the essence whales to move faster. The hundreds of whales suddenly accelerated midway. Xiao Chun grasped his saber with both hands and activated the blood flame shoes. Then, he quickly moved through the huge whales. Saber lights danced around, containing the killing chi of the state of massacre. With every saber strike, the essence whales were chopped into countless pieces. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions resounded continuously in the narrow space. The berserk energy of water spread wildly in all directions. Xiao Chun executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. He left behind afterimages in the air. With the help of the blood flame shoes, his speed reached Mach 3. 5. Xiao Chun was able to dodge the moment the essence whales exploded. It was like a storm raging on the sea. Huge waves soared into the sky as Xiao Chun moved around. However, he did not get hit by the waves. Instead, he hacked down with his saber. The boundless electric light and the state of massacre hidden in the electric light seemed to be suppressing the huge waves. Damn it! Unexpectedly, he comprehended 2 states at the same time. Furthermore, his speed is so fast. When the green-robe cultivator saw Xiao Chun hack apart the huge whales, he revealed a horrified expression. He hesitated for a moment, but when he looked in another direction, he persevered. Fortunately, he had made preparations in advance. He knew that this fellow could escape from 15 half-step martial monarchs. He should be a genius cultivator who could fight above his cultivation realm. Hence, when the green-robe cultivator made up his mind, he used a messenger bird to inform his companions. As long as he could hold on for a while longer, when his companions arrived, he would be able to capture this fellow. A peak high-rank blood demon's demon core was worth the risk. Whether it was sold or used to open his sea of consciousness, it would be worth cities. Thinking of this, the green-robed cultivator's expression slowly turned resolute. When Xiao Chun killed the final essence whale, his figure flashed. A palm wind rang out by Xiao Chen's ear. He sensed the other party attacking from an extremely tricky angle. Without turning around, Xiao Chun sent out an arc-light chop. A purple and red saber light moved in a strange arc, forming a semicircle that encased Xiao Chen's body. Bang! When the green-robed cultivator's palm wind struck the arc-light chop, it exploded. A shock wave blasted the green-robed cultivator back. Xiao Chun took advantage of this opportunity to quickly turn around. He looked at the pale, green-robed cultivator and said calmly, "Even now, you still have not tried to flee. You still have companions, right?" The green-robed cultivator was startled. However, he did not answer Xiao Chun. Instead, he charged over again. From the other party's expression, Xiao Chun already knew the answer he wanted. He said indifferently, "You overestimate yourself. If you have not comprehended the state of water to its limits, you would not be qualified to fight me." Thunder rumbled as Xiao Chun took a big step forward. His aura flourished as he charged forward, using offense as defense. The berserk energy combined with the boundless state of massacre completely suppressed the green-robed cultivator's aura, forcing him to retreat continuously. Pusi. Finding an opportunity, Xiao Chun swung his saber and broke through the weakest part of the other party's palm wind, leaving a wound on his chest. Chop! With this strike succeeding, Xiao Chun did not give the green-robed cultivator a chance to react. He used the most direct move of the 8 saber techniques and hacked down diagonally. Pa! In the time it took for a spark to fly, the green-robed cultivator clasped his palms together and clamped down on Xiao Chen's saber. Xiao Chun smiled coldly to himself. "You dare to use your bare hands to clamp down on my saber?" Thunder exploded. The electric light infused with the state of massacre instantly exploded, easily breaking the essence that the green-robed cultivator had on his palms. As the electric light flashed, the green-robed cultivator's palms immediately swelled up. Xiao Chen's saber continued to hack down. The saber light flashed and landed on the other party's inner vest. Z. The scarlet electric light crackled and flickered on the saber, creating a long electric light. With the aid of the state of massacre, it easily broke through the other party's inferior-grade inner vest. The green-robed cultivator's skin tore open, leaving a 1-meter-deep wound on his chest. Blood and flesh were clearly visible. The electric light leaped around the wound, causing the green-robed cultivator's face to twitch in pain. Xiao Chun took a step forward. Before the green-robed cultivator could flee, he placed his saber on his neck. "If you don't want to die, then don't move. Answer my question." Dita. The green-robed cultivator's chest had a bone-deep wound. Blood dripped down continuously. His expression was one of extreme pain, but he did not seem dispirited. "Do you think I will believe you? If you want to kill me, then just kill me. I have long since come to this ancient, desolate land. If I do not climb up by stepping on the corpses of others, I will die under the saber of others, becoming their stepping stone." The green-robed cultivator's resolve was rather high. However, Xiao Chun was still confident of getting the answer he wanted. As the saber pressed against the other party's neck, Xiao Chun moved forward a little. "Do you think you have a choice? If you answer my question, I can buy you some time. Who knows, when your companions arrive, you might still have a chance to live. If you don't answer, I will kill you now." The green-robed cultivator's neck was scratched. As death approached, the green-robed cultivator's instinctive fear finally made him submit. Xiao Chen's final words ignited his hope. If his companions arrived early, they might be able to save his life. "Ask away." "Very good. What is going on with the ancient desolate tower? Tell me in detail," Xiao Chun said with a calm gaze. When the green-robed cultivator heard this, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He had thought it was some incredible secret. It turned out that it was just that. In that case, there was no need for him to continue pressing on. In Desolate City, there was a stone tower that had existed for an unknown period of time. It was said that it had existed since the ancient era. There were many mysteries in the tower. There were strong martial techniques, mysterious secret treasures, profound cultivation techniques, and even holy weapons that came from outer space. All sorts of things that cultivators dreamed of could be obtained in there. Cultivating in the tower could even increase one's cultivation speed. The tower had 9 floors. The higher one went, the more benefits there would be. Furthermore, the strangest thing was that this stone tower only allowed youth below the age of 25 to enter. Once one's bone age exceeded the limit, no matter what cultivation realm one had, even if it was Emperor Wu, one would not be able to enter. It was like a land of fortuitous encounters prepared for geniuses. The green-robed cultivator continued. Of course, if you want to enter, there are many difficulties. The ancient desolate tower opens once every 2 years. First, you have to pass some external tests. Then, you have to compete for a limited number of spots. Finally, you have to pass the test of the ancient desolate tower itself. Uchi, just as Xiao Chan was about to ask how to qualify for the test, a golden dart suddenly flew toward his forehead. The golden dart was very dazzling. It was like a golden sun. It hurt Xiao Chen's eyes. Chapter 425. Its speed was incredibly fast, reaching Mach 4. Furthermore, it contained an extremely tyrannical energy. Its aura was startling. It was not like a dart, but a sword that could move the 9 heavens. It was incredibly dense. Everywhere it passed, it pierced through the air like it was a thin piece of paper, leaving behind a long, thin crack. Xiao Chan felt a dangerous aura. The black-winged blood flame eagle on the blood flame shoes flickered with light. His speed instantly reached Mach 4 as he dodged to the side. Xiao, a figure followed closely behind the dart. Then, he pulled the golden dart back. Then, he grabbed the cultivator in green and retreated at lightning speed. Just as Xiao Chan was about to give chase, a few auras of half-step martial monarchs came from the city and quickly headed in his direction. They should be the administrators of the city. They must have sensed the battle here and came to check it out. Not wanting to cause any more trouble, Xiao Chun quickly left in another direction. Qin Pingyu, why didn't you help me kill him? The cultivator in green questioned the cultivator beside him after he was rescued. The cultivator called Qin Pingyu played with a golden dart in his hand. He smiled faintly and said, "Let's go back first. I can only use my golden flash once a day. Furthermore, the people from the city lord's residence are here. Let's not talk about this anymore. Are you sure it is him?" The cultivator in green nodded and said, "I am sure. I saw him take out that peak high-rank blood demon's demon core." When Qin Pingyu heard that it was a peak high-rank blood demon's demon core, a greedy look flashed in his eyes. He said, "That's good. Keep an eye on him first. We will make our move after he leaves the city. You can take this opportunity to recuperate. Give me 1 month. When my comprehension of the state of water reaches its peak, I will personally kill this brat." The cultivator in green said ruthlessly. Back in Heavenly Spring City, Xiao Chun spent some inferior-grade spirit stones to find a courtyard for cultivators. Aside from bedrooms, such courtyards also had specialized cultivation rooms, dueling grounds for practicing martial techniques, and all sorts of equipment for tempering one's strength. If one spent some money, one could even find a training partner. Inside the cultivation room, Xiao Chun took out the firmament body tempering art. His strength had already reached 150,000 kilograms of force. After dealing with the miscellaneous items in the universe ring, it was time to practice this heaven-ranked body tempering technique. Xiao Chun already had a rough idea of the ancient desolate tower from the cultivator in green. Without a doubt, it was a place that geniuses must go. Although they did not know how to get there, the most basic requirement was probably their own strength. If one didn't have the strength, even if they knew the way to enter, they wouldn't be able to pass the test. As for the clear spring in that Jiang Zimo mentioned on the 17th of next month, it was likely related to this. Xiao Chun also thought of going there to take a look. However, before that, raising his own strength was undoubtedly the most important thing. At the very least, Xiao Chun was not confident of defeating Jiang Zimo. It would be difficult for Xiao Chun to advance to medial grade martial king within a short period of time. This was because Xiao Chun's foundation was much larger than that of ordinary people. If it were other inferior grade martial kings, their essence would be like a clear pond, and a regular genius's essence would be like a gushing river. However, Xiao Qin's essence would be like a vast ocean. Aside from regular peak geniuses, very few could surpass Xiao Qin. Just as heaven-ranked cultivation technique, the purple thunder divine incantation could leave many people in the dust. Furthermore, Xiao Qin had consumed all sorts of spirit herbs in the herb garden. As a result, his essence was much larger than that of a regular cultivator's. This made it even more difficult for Xiao Qin to advance. It was like a tall building built from flat ground. Xiao Qin's foundation was several times that of a regular cultivator's. Even if Xiao Qin wanted to reach the 5th floor, he would spend more time than others. However, as long as he reached the height, the space inside would be several times that of a regular person. Thus, for the time being, Xiao Qin intended to focus on tempering his physical body, focusing on cultivating the firmament body tempering art. The firmament body tempering art had a total of 12 layers. The first 3 layers were the foundation. They mainly strengthened the bones, flesh, and meridians. Starting from the 4th layer, the firmament body tempering art would increase the cultivator's vital qi. Every 3 layers was a huge hurdle. After every layer, one's vital qi would increase by leaps and bounds. Xiao Qin closed the firmament body tempering art's secret manual and sat cross-legged on the prayer mat. Then he closed his eyes. Xiao Qin started to circulate the vital qi in his body. He followed the firmament body tempering arts method and started to cultivate the inferior great heaven-ranked body tempering art. Vital qi was different from essence. In layman's terms, it was the strength that a cultivator could circulate when they were not using their essence. In reality, as long as one was an ordinary person, they would have some strength. However, only cultivators who cultivated the body tempering art would be able to skillfully control their vital qi. They would be able to circulate their vital qi like essence, achieving the effect of tempering the body. They would even be able to release their vital qi. They would be able to split mountains, shatter rocks, and fly. Of course, they would have to cultivate to a relatively deep realm before they could do that. 3 days later, Xiao Qin successfully broke through to the firmament body tempering art's 1st layer. All the bones in his body crackled continuously, becoming even tougher and unbreakable. At the same time, Xiao Qin's bones underwent an earth-shattering change. His bones started to tremble from the inside out. This feeling was extremely painful. It was like someone had stabbed a steel needle into his bones. All the bones in his body were pierced by tens of thousands of steel needles. Xiao Qin clenched his teeth and endured. He did his best to prevent his mind from collapsing under this bone-shattering pain. The pain lasted for an hour before it slowly subsided. Finally, a warm current flowed quickly through his bone marrow. The earlier pain was swept away, making him feel very comfortable. If one looked carefully, one would discover that Xiao Qin's delicate body had become even more robust. The lines on his face looked like they were carved by a knife. They were very sharp, very distinct, and very handsome. After enduring it, Xiao Qin continued to work hard and started to break through to the firmament body tempering art's 2nd layer. The 1st layer was tempering the bones. The 2nd layer was tempering the blood. Blood referred to the flesh and skin, not just the blood. Time went by slowly. Xiao Qin cultivated bitterly day and night. With the aid of the fasting pill, he even saved time for meals. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. Xiao Qin was finally about to break through to the firmament body tempering art's 2nd layer. This was different from tempering the bones. The tempering of the flesh and blood did not cause much pain. It was just an unbearable itch. The skin and flesh on his bones wriggled continuously, making him restless. He wished he could stop breaking through immediately. Xiao Qin's expression was very conflicted. He smiled faintly. It felt like there were countless caterpillars moving around in his flesh. Xiao Qin guarded his mind and did his best to calm himself down, to forget that unbearable itch. This state lasted for 2 hours before it stopped. Xiao Qin nearly could not endure it anymore. Compared to the pain of his broken bones, this feeling was even more unbearable. No wonder so many cultivators in the continent were not willing to cultivate the body tempering art. Just this kind of torture was enough to make a regular cultivator shrink back. After Xiao Chun successfully broke through to the second layer, his flesh underwent an earth-shattering change. However, there were no obvious changes on the surface. However, the muscles on Xiao Chen's arms and limbs started to swell. His originally delicate figure now looked much more muscular. Next up was the third layer. The third layer tempered the meridians. It was also the most important layer of the foundation. Meridians were the foundation of a cultivator. If the meridians were crippled, the cultivator would be crippled. No matter how powerful they were, they would not be able to use them. If a cultivator could truly temper their meridians, there would be many benefits. When the meridians became tougher, the cultivator would be able to use more essence and would not have to worry about the meridians bursting. The might of the various martial techniques would immediately increase by a level. This was the visible benefit. As for the invisible benefits, there were even more. Breaking through to the third level wasn't something that could be done in one go after a period of preparation. Instead, Xiao Chun needed to continuously expand his meridians and prepare carefully at all times. He could not be too impatient or too timid. If he was too impatient, he would injure his meridians. That would be equivalent to crippling his cultivation. If he used too little, there would be no effect at all. It would just be a waste of time. Xiao Chun needed to focus at every moment of the day, exhausting a large amount of mental energy. He could not relax for even a moment to expand and temper his meridians. After half a month, Xiao Chun finally opened his eyes. He had a fatigued expression on his face. His eyes were sunken, and he did not look spirited at all. However, there was an unconcealable joy in the depths of his eyes. After persevering for half a month, he had finally reaped some benefits. Xiao Chun had finally broken through to the third layer of the firmament body tempering art. After spending more than 20 days, he had completely laid down the foundations of the firmament body tempering art. All that remained was to consolidate his foundations and make preparations to break through to the fourth layer at any time. Although the difference between Xiao Chun and Bai Lishi, who had managed to cultivate the fourth layer and break through to the fifth layer in 1 month, was quite large, Xiao Chun was still very satisfied. It looked like with the help of the flowing light marigold, Xiao Chun's comprehension ability had improved significantly. Otherwise, he would not have used only 20-odd days to cultivate to the third layer. Xiao Chun stood up with much difficulty. He wanted to go out and take a breather to recover his mental energy. Who knew? The moment he took a step, his body would sway and he would collapse. Xiao Chun struggled to keep his eyelids open. He felt sleepy and actually fell asleep on the ground. Half a month of intense mental energy exhaustion was much greater than Xiao Chun had imagined. Even with his vast mental energy, he could not hold on for much longer. In reality, at such a cultivation realm, only Xiao Chun would dare to expend energy like this day and night. No one else in the same generation would be able to do so. This sleep lasted for 2 days and 2 nights before Xiao Chun woke up. He had recovered most of his exhausted mental energy. Gurgle, gurgle. Xiao Chun's stomach growled in hunger. He sat on the ground and smiled bitterly. The effects of the fasting pill have worn off for a few days already. I have to take a bath and eat a big meal to ease my hunger. Xiao Chun got up and walked out of the cultivation room. When he arrived at the courtyard, he rang the bell in front of the courtyard. Soon, a pretty maidservant walked over. This was a small courtyard for cultivators to cultivate in. It was provided by a very strong power. It had all sorts of services available. Naturally, there was food and hot water. Of course, this was all on the premise that one was willing to spend spirit stones. If one was willing to spend a lot of money, they could even provide a courtyard with spiritual energy comparable to the heavenly saber pavilions. Chapter 426. The maidservant looked at Xiao Chun and asked, "Young hero, do you have any instructions?" Xiao Chun said softly, "Prepare some hot water and a table of food." "That's right. Help me call a sparring partner over as well." The maidservant remembered everything. After Xiao Chun finished, she said, "What rank do you need to be a sparring partner?" "The fees vary according to rank." Xiao Chun thought for a while before saying, "Peak superior grade martial king." The maidservant was mildly startled. Peak superior grade martial king. This youth is clearly only an inferior grade martial king. He wants to find a sparring partner 2 ranks higher than him? Isn't he overestimating himself? Seeing that the maidservant did not move, Xiao Chun could not help but frown. He said, "What's wrong? Have they all been called away? In that case, you can bring a superior grade martial king." No, there is someone. However, we will have to wait a little longer. The fee is 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones for 15 minutes. The maidservant quickly said after she recovered her wits. 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones for 15 minutes? To a peak superior grade martial king, this was not particularly expensive. Xiao Chun took out the wooden box containing 5,000 inferior grade spirit stones. He said, "As long as someone comes, it is good. I do not mind waiting a little longer." The maidservant counted the spirit stones and placed them in her spatial ring. Then, she went to make preparations. The hot water arrived first. As Xiao Chun soaked comfortably in the bathtub, he completely relaxed. After soaking in the water, the fatigue from cultivating for half a month was completely swept away. His entire being felt refreshed, and he felt 100 times more spirited. After changing his clothes, Xiao Chun hesitated for a while as he prepared to put on the clear wind robes. It was not because his clothes were dirty. This kind of secret treasure had an automatic cleaning ability. It was definitely cleaner than washing it. Even ordinary holes could be repaired automatically. There would not be any problems even if he wore it for 10 years. The key was that the color of his clothes was too conspicuous. Back at the Flowing Wind Pavilion, the cultivator in green had followed him because of his attire. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chun used a small technique in the shape-shifting spell to change the color of his clothes to blue. As for changing his appearance, Xiao Chun did not give it much thought. Even if he did not like it, it was not to that extent. It was just a holy fire manner. After going out, the table in the hall was already filled with dishes and wine. Not having eaten for a long time, Xiao Chun's appetite had greatly increased, and he devoured the food like a mountain sweeping away the clouds. After the food was completely digested, Xiao Chun slowly walked into the courtyard. At some point in time, a middle-aged man with an awe-inspiring aura was already standing there. Xiao Chun felt the other party's aura. Based on his cultivation, he was indeed a peak superior grade martial disciple. However, he did not know if his state had reached great perfection. "I'm Lu Yu. Can we begin?" The middle-aged man said indifferently. He looked at Xiao Chun from head to toe and did not pay any more attention to him. However, an ordinary inferior grade martial king was not worth paying too much attention to. Xiao Chun nodded and said, "Yes, I can." Lu Yu took out an hourglass and placed it upside down on the stone table. The sand started to fall slowly. His lips twitched as he said, "My time is limited. Whatever you want me to do it quickly. I'm only good with my fists and legs. I can forget about weapons." A cultivator that was good with his fists and legs was what Xiao Chun wanted. "Just punch me with your full power." Lu Yu was stunned. He suspected that he heard wrong. Is this brat trying to be funny? What if I kill you? It was not that Lu Yu had never received such a request before. However, if he wanted to punch an inferior grade martial king, he would be seeking death. There is no need to overthink. I am confident. When Xiao Chun saw that Lu Yu did not make a move, he continued. Xiao Chun's physical body was originally made of dragon, tendon tiger bones. Now that he had undergone the rebirth of a heaven-ranked body tempering cultivation technique, his defense and toughness had increased significantly. Xiao Chun urgently needed to know how strong his defense was. That way, he would be able to deal with it more easily in battle. Xiao Chun knew which attacks he needed to dodge and which he did not need to dodge. He could take advantage of the situation to counterattack, achieving an unexpected result in battle. Lu Yu did not waste any more time. He got into a stance and prepared to attack. Since Xiao Chun requested it, Xiao Chun would let him do as he pleased. However, he still held back 40 to 50% of his strength. If he really killed Xiao Chun, it would be hard to explain himself. He just wanted Xiao Chun to suffer a little and not be so arrogant. "Uchi!" Lu Yu shouted, and his suppressed aura burst forth. A strong wind blew. When his aura surged, The fallen leaves and dust on the ground were instantly blown up. Lu Yu stepped forward and punched Xiao Chen's chest with a surging fist wind. Bang! As expected, Xiao Chun did not get knocked back. Instead, it was Lu Yu who felt like he had punched a pile of steel. It was extremely painful. When Lu Yu saw the calm and unmoving Xiao Chun, his face filled with shock. How can this be? Although I did not use my full power in this attack, it should be more than enough to deal with an inferior grade martial king who is 2 grades lower than me. Furthermore, the most important thing was that Lu Yu did not feel any fluctuations of Xiao Chen's essence. That was to say, Xiao Chun had relied on his physical body to block this punch. Xiao Chun frowned slightly and said, "Why did you not use your full power?" Lu Yu took 3 steps back and said with a grave expression, "In that case, as you wish. Don't blame me for being too heavy-handed." Lu Yu raised his aura to its peak and shouted. He leaped into the air and punched. Strong essence infused his hand. A long mark appeared in the air, giving off a piercing sonic boom. Its aura was very horrifying. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. He circulated his vital qi and prepared to receive this punch. Boom! When the fist wind struck Xiao Chen's body, it gave off a thunderous explosion. Xiao Chen's body shook, but he did not move his feet in the end. The surging essence exploded in Xiao Chen's chest. Under the pain of the shockwave, Xiao Chen's clothes and hair fluttered continuously. Xiao Chun closed his eyes and felt the situation in his body. He discovered that his internal organs had moved slightly, but there were no major problems. Xiao Chen's bones and flesh had blocked most of the force from the essence. He had managed to block this punch. Xiao Chen opened his eyes. He did not want to waste any more time. He continued, "This time, I will continue to use my full power. You can use your martial techniques now. Let's start with the yellow-ranked martial techniques first." The rank of the martial techniques slowly increased. Before Lu Yu's somewhat numb expression, Xiao Chun raised it to a superior grade earth-ranked martial technique. After that, he infused his state into it. After testing it a few more times, Xiao Chun felt fatigued and called for him to stop. After testing it out, Xiao Chun had an accurate understanding of his bottom line. Without using his state, he could easily block a superior grade earth-ranked martial techniques attack. After using his state, if he continued to block it head-on, it would be significantly easier. At most, he would be severely injured after 3 times. Receive another punch from me, and you can leave. Remember to defend with all your might. Do not be careless. Lu Yu nodded and crossed his arms. He was no longer as careless as before. The other party had given him too much of a shock. If he got careless, he might end up suffering significant injuries. Xiao Chun clenched his fist tightly, and his bones crackled. He started to gather all the vital qi in his body. A purple qi whirlpool spun quickly, and essence flowed through his wide meridians and into his palm. After his meridians were widened, the amount of essence that he could instantly move was more than 20% more than before. This gave Xiao Chen a pleasant surprise. "Xiao!" Without any pause, Xiao Chen clenched his fist tightly. The instant his vital qi and essence merged, he punched out. Xiao Chun wanted to know how strong he could burst out with his current strength in the shortest time possible. Boom! An overwhelming force surged over. Lu Yu felt his arms tremble, and a huge force knocked him into the air. So! Lu Yu flew back several dozen meters. After he landed, he took a few more steps back before he managed to stabilize himself. Lu Yu felt pain in his hands. Both of his arms had been fractured. His bones had snapped in half. He would need at least half a month to recover. Lu Yu's expression was somewhat horrified. He thought to himself, "That's 350,000 kilograms of force. This fellow did not even have time to store up energy." Unexpectedly, he managed to unleash 350,000 kilograms of force in one go. In the end, I still underestimated him. If he had used all his might to defend, his arms would not have fractured. This deal was a complete loss. Widening my meridians can indeed increase my explosive power. In the past, I could only unleash 250,000 kilograms of force by merging my vital chi and essence. Now, it has increased by 100,000 kilograms of force. The firmament body tempering art truly lives up to its name as a heaven-ranked body tempering cultivation technique. Xiao Chun revealed a joyful smile. When Xiao Chun saw Lu Yu's broken arms, he took out 3,000 medial-grade spirit stones and said, "Sorry for injuring you. Consider this a small compensation." Lu Yu's pale complexion finally revealed a smile. He swept the spirit stones into his spatial ring and said, "Thank you, brother. Goodbye." After that, Xiao Chun flew off to find someone to reconnect Lu Yu's bones. Xiao Chun looked outside the courtyard and muttered, "It will be the 17th day after tomorrow. With my current strength, I should have a 50% chance of defeating Jiang Zimo. I think I should be strong enough to make a trip to the Clear Spring Inn." However, before Xiao Chun went, he had to settle something first. He had to get an ancient desolate pass. Xiao Chun now understood the importance of an ancient desolate pass. Not only did he need it to pay taxes in the city, but he also needed it to do business in the shops. Even now, he had to pay a lot more spirit stones to stay in this cultivation courtyard because he did not have an ancient desolate pass. Xiao Chun finally understood the inconvenience of not having an ancient desolate pass. After calling over a maid, Xiao Chun asked for the location of the Heavenly Extermination Union in the city. Then, he immediately left the cultivation courtyard. In an inn in Heavenly Spring City, the green-robed man and Qin Pingyu were currently chatting at a table on the second floor. This brat has been hiding in the cultivation courtyard for almost a month. I wonder how much longer he will have to hide. If the Holy Fire Manor's people find him first, he will have nothing left. The green-robed cultivator drank a large mouthful of wine as he spoke somewhat depressedly. Qin Pingyu, who sat opposite the green-robed man, appeared rather indifferent. He smiled coldly and said, "Don't worry. The Holy Fire Manor will not look for him immediately. He cannot possibly remain in the cultivation courtyard forever." After they parted ways with Xiao Chun that day, the two immediately sought out a local intelligence clan. They spent a large sum of money to obtain information on Xiao Chun's whereabouts. After that, they waited for a long time. The green-robed cultivator smiled sinisterly and said, "Although my state of water has not reached its limits in 1 month, I have cultivated the medial-grade earth-ranked autumn water art to the 7th layer. If I meet this brat again, I will be able to deal with him in 10 moves." Chapter 427. When Qin Pingyu heard this, he was slightly startled. Medial-grade earth-ranked cultivation techniques normally only had 7 layers. If that was the case, the other party had cultivated a medial-grade earth-ranked cultivation technique to the limit. This is not easy to deal with. Although the superior grade earth-ranked cultivation technique I cultivate has 9 layers, I have only cultivated it to the 8th layer. There is still a gap between me and the 9th layer. Given this, I do not have much of an advantage in terms of cultivation techniques. I can only think of other methods. Seeing Qin Pingyu remain silent, the cultivator in green smiled coldly to himself. How could he not know what Qin Pingyu was thinking? The green-robed cultivator tapped his finger on the table a few times. He squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Pingyu. "I advise you not to have any other thoughts. Just obediently kill this brat and split the treasures. Don't forget that this brat has many good things on him." Qin Pingyu smiled embarrassedly and said, "How can that be? You are overthinking. This brat is not that easy to deal with. If he has any other thoughts, both of us will die at his hands." The cultivator in green snorted coldly and said, "It's good that you know. Dong, dong, dong." Just at this moment, a shifty-eyed, skinny man came up to the second floor. He looked around and saw Qin Pingyu and the cultivator in green. He pretended to walk over casually and handed over a note. Then, he wandered around the restaurant twice before slowly leaving. The cultivator in green said, "The people of the Wind Surveillance Hall are really cautious. Even a manservant is so cautious. No wonder they can stand firm in Heavenly Spring City." Qin Pingyu opened the note. After he finished reading it, he revealed a faint smile, The latest news is that this brat has come out. He is rushing in the direction of the Heavenly Extermination Union. The cultivator in green's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "This brat should have gone to apply for an ancient desolate pass. Previously, I overheard in the Flowing Wind Pavilion that a white-robed youth did not apply for an ancient desolate pass and ended up losing spirit stones in the great competition. Qin Pingyu used his essence to crush the note into powder. Then he muttered, 'It is more troublesome to apply for an ancient desolate pass in Heavenly Spring City than outside. He has to complete a mission first, and he has to leave the city.' The location of the Heavenly Extermination Union's branch in the city was very easy to find. It was just beside the city lord's residence. It was a vast, circular building that was much taller than the city lord's residence. From afar, one would be able to see it with a single glance. However, the city lord's residence could not. Comparing the two, it was clear whose position was higher. Inside the spacious gate, there were streams of people, but there were only people going in and no one coming out. Although there were many people, it was not chaotic at all. Every floor above the second floor had 8 doors and windows. Occasionally, cultivators would fly out from them. It looked like this was the exit of the Heavenly Extermination Union. Xiao Chan found a receptionist on the first floor and explained his purpose. The receptionist immediately led him to a counter on the second floor. "Since you want to come to Heavenly Spring City to apply for a pass, then we will follow the rules. You can choose any one of the missions on the wall over there," the old man behind the counter said with an indifferent expression. Xiao Chen looked in the direction of the old man's finger and saw 7 walls of different colors. There were many cultivators gathered in front of each wall. The old man continued, "You are a martial king. There is no need for you to look at the missions on the white walls. You can only choose from the walls behind." Through the receptionist's words, Xiao Chun understood the rules. If he was in a border city of the ancient desolate land like Underworld City, he would only need to register his identity to apply for a pass there. If one wanted to apply for a pass there, one only needed to register one's identity. After entering the Heavenly Extermination Lake, there were different rules for each place. The rule of Heavenly Spring City was that one had to complete a mission for the Heavenly Extermination Union for free. Of course, the rank of the mission would not be very high. Xiaochen could not help but feel regret. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Xiao Chan did not feel any resentment. There were the most cultivators in front of the first white wall. Most of them had low cultivations. They were all martial saints, standing there and watching. Xiao Chun arrived at the second blue wall. Most of the missions on the wall had already been accepted. The remaining ones were all difficult and unrewarding missions. Xiao Chun stared at the wall for a long time. Then, he tore a mission slip that was stuck on the wall. The requirement of the mission was to collect 10 stalks of illusionary grass. The reward was 500 medial grade spirit stones. The illusionary grass was one of the main ingredients for refining the poison shadowless pill. A peak rank 6 spirit beast, the dazzling shadow leopard, guarded the area where it grew. The dazzling shadow leopard was not very strong. However, it was good at concealing itself. Furthermore, it usually moved in pairs and was not easy to deal with. The mission was troublesome and the reward was low. As a result, the mission slip had remained on the wall for a few days. However, Xiao Chun did not feel any pressure. He had the help of his spiritual sense. The most troublesome concealment technique of the dazzling shadow leopard was not difficult for him. That dazzling shadow leopard was only a peak rank 6 spirit beast. To Xiao Chun, it was not difficult for him to deal with it. The old man behind the counter received the mission slip from Xiao Chun. The indifferent expression on his face warmed up. He smiled and said, "This is a troublesome mission. However, you have helped us a little. Leave your name and a drop of blood. After you complete the mission, you will be given the pass." After everything was settled, Xiao Chun took the mission slip and descended from the window. The mission slip had the address of the illusionary grass. It was in the inner valley of the Heavenly Spring mountain range in the west of the city. This saved Xiao Chun a lot of trouble. After Xiao Chun left the city, he rushed towards the Heavenly Spring mountain range. The mission was rather simple, so Xiao Chan did not think of any schemes. He just needed to go there and use his strength to suppress them. Up on the city wall, Qin Pingyu and the cultivator in green watched expressionlessly as Xiao Chen left. The cultivator in green said, "According to the news from the Wind Whispering Hall, this fellow accepted the mission for the illusionary grass. We have already confirmed the location. However, this brat's mental energy is very strong. I'm afraid I will be discovered before I get close." The last time the cultivator in green followed Xiao Chun had discovered him in advance. This time he was somewhat worried. Qin Pingyu took out 2 bottles of medicinal pills and smiled confidently. "I came prepared long ago. This is a medicinal powder refined from sagetail grass. If you sprinkle it on your body, even a regular martial monarch would not be able to sense it." The cultivator in green immediately revealed a joyful smile. He said, "You are really willing to part with your capital. With this medicinal powder, this brat will definitely die. If I am unwilling to part with the bait, how can I catch a big fish? Let's go. Don't let him get too far behind." The Heavenly Spring mountain range was filled with lone peaks. However, they were not more than 2 kilometers tall. However, the mountain range stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Xiao Chun spent 4 hours before he found the valley where the illusionary grass grew. When he scanned it with his spiritual sense, he immediately discovered the illusionary grass. What a fellow! There are actually more than 10 dazzling shadow leopards. That is equivalent to a small tribe. No wonder no one came to accept this mission. Xiao Chun withdrew his spiritual sense and exclaimed in surprise. It looked like the cultivators here were all very cunning. However, there were many illusionary grass as well. Xiao Chun had more than enough to collect 10 stalks. His efforts were not in vain. In the surroundings of the illusionary grass, there were invisible figures moving about in the air. There were not even any footprints on the ground. No one could detect them with their normal senses. This was the dazzling shadow leopard that gave ordinary cultivators a headache. With more than 10 dazzling shadow leopards gathered together, even a half-step martial monarch would find it difficult to deal with them. Xiao Chun had to think of a way to separate them. Xiao Chun casually punched the ground, and rocks of various sizes immediately shot out. Xiao Chun took out a carving knife and started carving carefully. Soon enough, dozens of lifelike stone eagles appeared. Life bestowal spell. Xiao Chun formed hand seals and shouted. The stone sculptures on the ground instantly came to life. They pounced at the group of dazzling shadow leopards. Sha! Sha! There was a lot of noise. When the eagles pounced, the entire group of leopards fell into chaos. 2 dazzling shadow leopards were lured away. By the time the dazzling shadow leopards shattered the eagles, they were already several kilometers away from the valley. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and drew his lunar shadow saber. Boom! 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 There were loud explosions on the ground as electric light flashed. Without the advantage of being invisible and alone, Xiao Chun did not have to spend much effort to kill these dazzling shadow leopards. After 45 minutes, the corpses of 2 dazzling shadow leopards appeared on the ground. Xiao Chun dug out their spirit cores and continued killing dazzling shadow leopards. For hours later, there were no more dazzling shadow leopards in the valley. They had all turned into spirit cores in Xiao Chen's universe ring. Xiao Chen took out an inferior grade spirit stone and quickly replenished his exhausted essence. Then, he started to pick the illusionary grass. However, just as Xiao Chen was about to make his move, the massacre throne in his sea of consciousness trembled slightly. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. He held the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him, his face filled with wariness. Xiao Chun scanned the area within a kilometer with his spiritual sense a few times. Finally, he found the hidden Qin Pingyu and the cultivator in green on a towering tree. There were no energy fluctuations coming from the 2 of them. It looked like they used some kind of medicine to evade the detection of mental energy. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. His spiritual sense was different from regular mental energy. It was like his eyes. Unless one had a special secret treasure, no one would be able to block his detection. Qin Pingyu put away the flashing golden light in his hand and frowned. This fellow is too sensitive to killing Qi. He should have discovered us already. It's fine. Now that we are within a kilometer of him, he has no chance to escape. We will crush him head-on. The two of them no longer hid themselves. They spread their arms and leaped off the tree, quickly flying toward Xiao Chun. So. The two of them flashed in the air a few times. In 3 breaths of time, they covered the distance of a kilometer. The cultivator in green looked at Xiao Chun and smiled coldly. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are destined to regret not killing me that day. Xiao Chun ignored the cultivator in green's words. He looked at Qin Pingyu, who was beside him. The dart that Qin Pingyu used that day had left a deep impression on him. If it were not for the blood flame shoes that could increase his speed, Xiao Chun would not have been able to dodge it in a short time. However, with the force of his saber, he should be able to deflect that dart. Qin Pingyu said indifferently, "Little brother, hand over the peak high-rank blood demon and the secret treasure, and you may leave. You are so young and have such a cultivation. Your future is bright. You have to know that a dead genius is no longer a genius." Xiao Chun smiled gently and said, "A dead genius is indeed no longer a genius. However, you're not qualified to say that." Chapter 428. Stubborn Fool. Huge Whale Palm. Seeing that Xiao Chun was unwilling to agree, the cultivator in green immediately executed the killing move that he had been preparing in secret. A watery light filled the air, and ripples appeared on the ground. They looked like waves, rising and falling. This was the result of the other party infusing his state into his martial technique. The lines on the skin of the huge whale, formed from essence, were clearly visible. Its sharp teeth flickered with a cold light. It looked very real. Xiao Chen's eyelids sank slightly. The essence of this cultivator in green was much stronger than it was in the past month. However, it was unfortunate that he ran into Xiao Chun. In the past month, Xiao Chen's improvement was much greater than his. This fight was destined to end in tragedy. The pure state of thunder and saber technique of the lunar shadow saber merged continuously. Surging essence burst out uncontrollably. With the expansion of his meridians, the amount of essence that Xiao Chun could move in an instant increased by 20%. Naturally, the might of his saber technique increased as well. When Xiao Chun swung his saber, electricity surrounded the saber. Puchi, Puchi. Countless arcs of electricity shot out from the saber. Purple arcs of light tore through the air, and the power of thunder spread out. The entire space seemed to be covered in a layer of electricity. The hidden weapon in Qin Pingyu's hand gave off purple arcs of electricity, giving off a ZZ sound. His fingers actually felt numb from the electricity. How strong is this brat's state of thunder? Why does it seem like it completely suppresses the state of water? Qin Pingyu thought in astonishment as he circulated his essence and eliminated the electric arcs. Xiao Chun shouted and stomped on the ground. His essence merged with his strength, instantly reaching 350,000 kilograms of force. Bang, bang, bang. The undulating waves on the ground immediately quietened down. The entire hill shook continuously. The green-robed cultivator's state of water was crushed by the force of Xiao Chen's stomp. Break! Xiao Chun moved to the side and stabbed his saber into the right side of the huge whale made of essence. Then, he leaped up and the saber left a long arc of electricity in the huge whale's body. The electricity crackled and flickered continuously. Every time it flickered, the luster of the giant whale became much dimmer. When Xiao Chen pulled out his saber, Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. The giant whale exploded with a crisp sound. Xiao Chen's essence qi shook and dispersed the shock wave formed by the giant whale. It was extremely domineering. On the other hand, the azure-robed cultivator was blasted back by the shock wave. Qin Pingyu also flew backward. Kill! Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed, but he didn't stop at all. With a soaring aura, boundless lightning flashed, and lightning surrounded his body. He was like a god of thunder as he charged forward. The azure-robed cultivator was greatly startled. He had not expected Xiao Chun, who needed some time to cripple his gargantuan whale palm a month ago. Now that the giant whale palm had been strengthened, Xiao Chun felt even more relaxed. He did not even need to use the state of massacre. The green-robed cultivator stood firmly and looked at the surging aura of Xiao Chun. Not daring to hold back, he raised his aura to the limit. The azure-robed cultivator shouted and charged forward. Then he sent out 6 palm strikes at lightning speed. With each palm strike, a giant whale made of essence appeared out of nowhere. Xiao Chun sent out 6 palm strikes in a row. The 6 essence whales connected their heads and tails, forming a long line as they charged at Xiao Chun. Soul extinguishing 5 poison. Qin Pingyu, who had been holding back for a while, finally made his move. His figure flashed 5 times in the air, and 5 darts flickering with dim multicolored lights flew at Xiao Chun from 5 different angles. The dim multicolored lights were all different, looking incredibly strange. Clearly, they were all venomous. The angles at which they shot out were also very tricky, and their speeds varied as well. The 5 darts connected one after another. Even if Xiao Chun dodged one, he would not be able to dodge the other. The angles and speeds were all calculated to their limits. There was no way to dodge them. Immediately, there were 6 giant essence whales with vast auras in front of Xiao Chun. If he was not careful, there might be a chain of explosions. The might of the explosion of 6 essence whales was easy to imagine. Then, there were 5 more darts that Xiao Chun could not dodge. He could only receive them head-on. His path of retreat was blocked. He had nowhere to retreat to. Xiao Chun's expression remained calm as he thought quickly. In an instant, thousands of scenarios appeared in his mind. Then he quickly reacted. Ding dang, ding dang. Xiao Chun executed the azure cloud soaring dragon art. His figure spun around and turned into a huge electric storm. The 5 darts were instantly repelled. Chi, chi. When the darts passed through the trees, a black chi spread out. Those trees immediately lost all signs of life and withered. When the azure-robed cultivator saw the situation, he could not help but smile. If Xiao Chun dodged the darts, he would not be able to dodge this chain of whales. Even a half-step martial monarch would not dare to face the might of 6 whales exploding together. Qin Pingyu's face sank slightly, but he did not get careless. A golden dart appeared in his right hand. Then, he pushed off the ground and landed on the top of a tree, waiting for an opportunity to strike. After knocking back the 5 darts, the huge whale, made of essence, was already less than a meter away from Xiao Chun. There was no time for him to dodge. The surging aura combined made it difficult to breathe. The ferocious aura caused Xiao Chun's hair to flutter wildly. Kacha! Xiao Chun sheathed the lunar shadow saber and stabbed it into the ground. A golden image of a tiger and a dragon appeared on Xiao Chun's body. They coiled around each other and roared endlessly. Xiao Chun clenched his fists tightly and looked at the huge whale flying at him. He took a deep breath and punched. Bang! 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 Explosions resounded one after another, creating huge pits in the ground. Dust and rocks flew into the air. However, the scene that the azure-robed cultivator had imagined, the 6 whales exploding together, did not happen. This was because every time Xiao Chun destroyed an essence whale, he would use his body to withstand the impact of the essence. Xiao Chun quickly destroyed an essence whale, not showing any intention of retreating. He continued forward, punching 6 times. Chaotic dance of whales. When the azure-robed cultivator saw Xiao Chun emerge from the cloud of dust without any injuries, he did not think too much. He was about to execute his killing move. The black-winged blood flame eagle and the blood flame shoes flashed, and Xiao Chun's speed increased by 20%, reaching Mach 4. As the azure-robed cultivator rushed forward, Xiao Chun kicked the azure-robed cultivator's right head. Bang! The half-executed chaotic dance of whales was immediately broken. The azure-robed cultivator vomited a mouthful of blood as the kick knocked him into the air. Using the might of a medial-grade secret treasure, the speed and strength of Xiao Chun's kick reached the peak of a martial king. A half-step martial monarch would not dare say they could block it. When the azure-robed cultivator landed on the ground, he was no longer breathing. The force of Xiao Qin's kick had shattered half of his head. The brain was a vital point of a person. Since half of it was shattered, naturally, the azure-robed cultivator was dead. A clump of red light instantly entered Xiao Qin's forehead. The azure-robed cultivator's talent was average. He did not have a good opportunity to cultivate a peak cultivation technique. The longer this dragged on, the greater the gap between him and Xiao Qin. From the very start, Xiao Qin had not considered the azure-robed cultivator a threat. Now that he had kicked the azure-robed cultivator to death, he did not feel anything. Xiao, an intense sense of danger came. A dazzling golden sun appeared behind Xiao Qin from nowhere. The dazzling light was so bright that no one dared to look at it directly. Qin Pingyu had finally brought out his golden flash, which could reach Mach 4. He had seen Xiao Qin use the secret treasure on his leg. Xiao Qin would not be able to use it a second time within a short period of time, so he did not hesitate to make a decisive move. Xiao Qin closed his eyes and turned around in an instant. He landed beside the lunar shadow saber and grasped its hilt with both hands. Then he drew it. Xiao Qin's series of actions were like flowing water. There were no obstructions at all. It was extremely smooth and natural. A dazzling purple light flashed. The saber erupted with a purple light that was even more dazzling than the golden flash. Kassier. The light extinguished, and there was a melodious sound. The golden dart split into two and fell to the ground. Shock filled Qin Pingyu's face. He had not expected Xiao Qin to chop this peak inferior grade offensive secret treasure in half with one saber strike. Under an attack that was 4 times faster than the speed of sound, how much explosive power would it take to split a person in half with a single slash? Qin Pingyu felt horror in his heart. He did not care whether the azure-robed cultivator lived or died. He turned around and ran. Xiao Qin suddenly opened his eyes. A bloody hole appeared on Qin Pingyu's left chest. Blood flowed out continuously. A purple flame burned on the wound, preventing the essence from healing him. In his panic, Qin Pingyu ignored the wound and continued to run. "You think you can run?" Xiao Qin snorted coldly, and a 1-meter-long flying sword appeared in his palm. He leaped out, and a basketball-sized wound appeared on Qin Pingyu's chest. Then, he slowly fell over. Xiao Qin removed the spatial rings from the two's hands. He could not be bothered to look at them, so he casually tossed them into the universe ring. Then, he started his unfinished business, picking the illusionary grass. The largest restaurant in the city, the Clear Spring Inn, closed early on the 17th of the month. A sign saying "temporarily closed" was erected at the entrance. 2 rows of expressionless black-clothed cultivators stood at the entrance. Occasionally, youths would step forward and hand over their invitations before entering. The crowd on the street stood on both sides of the street. They did not understand what was going on. However, based on the atmosphere, it was clear that something big was about to happen. The person who just entered seems to be the great Xia Nation's Thousand-Sword Pavilion Xia Xian. This girl is a rare genius of the Thousand-Sword Pavilion. She comprehended sword intent at the age of 16. Now, she is an influential person of the great Xia Nation's younger generation. She is one of the hot favorites for the top 20 of the 5-nation youth competition. There is also the great Chu Nation's heavenly sword gates Ding, Fengqiu, and Jin Wuji. These 2 are here as well. They were in the top 100 of the previous Tianwu ranking. The great Tang Nation's beast taming abodes people are here as well. That fellow seems to be the second disciple of the beast taming abodes sect master. He is very strong and is one of the top experts of the great Tang Nation. That seems to be the Holy Fire Manor's young manor lord, Lung Yun. He is ranked 4th among the younger generation of the Southern Islands. Unexpectedly, he is here as well. What is going on? Why is he being so mysterious? The crowd watched as the youths handed over their invitations and entered. The more they talked, the more they felt that something big was about to happen. The people who entered the Clear Spring and were all young geniuses of the various nations. Aside from the great Jin Nation, there were many geniuses from the other 4 nations. Could it be related to the opening of the ancient desolate tower? The ancient desolate tower opens once every 3 years. It seems like it is about time for it to open. Suddenly, someone in the crowd thought of something and said excitedly, Chapter 429. That's right. That must be it. Otherwise, why would so many youths come here? However, the number of people invited this time might be at least 3 times that of the previous one. The age of geniuses has already sprouted. After 10-odd years, those geniuses have all grown up. The Heavenly Extermination Union will definitely invite more people. I just don't know what the test will be this time. Will there be a few more slots? The others all agreed. They were certain that the matter at the clear spring and had something to do with the ancient desolate tower. A huge arena stood in the middle of a spacious backyard behind the clear spring inn. It was several hundred meters long and wide. There were some tables and chairs around the arena. Boom, boom, boom. 2 young swordsmen with unfathomable strength and long auras were currently exchanging moves in the arena. The violent energy, along with the collision of the weapons, stirred up energy shock waves that overflowed in all directions. Just as the shock waves were about to break through the arena, a formless barrier blocked them. Ripples appeared around the arena. It turned out that there was a strong barrier protecting the arena. This allowed cultivators to fight without worry about the strong energy destroying the surrounding buildings. Thunder Wind Sword Flash. 9 Yang Sword. Boom. The 2 of them shouted and raised their auras to the peak. They executed their killing moves. Surging sword chi clashed with each other, giving off a chain of explosions. Sword chi flew everywhere in the arena, as well as boundless sword images. The 2 of them exchanged dozens of moves in the midst of the strong sword dance before they slowly stopped. Both of them stood firmly. After a series of exchanges, they were evenly matched. They no longer had any desire to continue. Furthermore, it was not yet time for them to make a move. Lu Chunsheng, it has been 3 years. Your sword is still as sharp as before. However, I only use 70% of my strength. You will not have it as easy for you in the next Tianwu ranking. The gray-robed cultivator sheathed his sword first, appearing very confident. The swordsman called Lu Chunsheng smiled faintly and said, Zhuotiansheng, don't think that you're the only one who did not use your full strength. I only used 50% as well. Just at this moment, Ding Fengshou led Jin Wuji in from outside the courtyard. The moment Xiao Chun entered the courtyard, the 2 people in the arena immediately looked over and focused their gazes on Ding Fengshou. Sensing the other party's sword intent, a cautious look appeared in his eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there was a blazing fighting spirit. The sword intent from Xiao Chen's body pressed over without fear. Unexpectedly, the 2 of them worked together to put pressure on Ding Fengshou. Ding Fengshou raised his eyelids slightly, and the surging sword intent in his body soared into the sky. There seemed to be the faint hum of a sword in the air. Even when fighting 1 against 2, Ding Fengshou was not at a disadvantage. He slowly walked forward and his sword intent surged, suppressing Lu Chunsheng and Zhuotiansheng. Ha ha ha! Unexpectedly, we cannot suppress Ding Fengshou even after working together. Ding Fengshou, it looks like you gained a lot in the deep-sea battlefield. A hearty laugh came from outside the courtyard. A young man with an elegant figure and a playful smile on his face slowly stepped into the courtyard. When Jin Wuji saw this person, his expression changed slightly. This was the beast taming abodes Pei Shaoxian, one of the top 100 rankers of the previous Heaven Martial rankings. Jin Wuji was eliminated by this person. He could not even block 3 moves and had to leave in a sorry state. Jin Wuji felt a deep fear for this person. Pei Shaoxian also saw Jin Wuji. He mocked, Why did you bring trash to such a big event? Ding Fengshou, are you not afraid of embarrassing your heavenly sword gate? When Jin Wuji heard this, he became enraged. If he did not fear the other party's strength, he would have flared up on the spot. Ding Fengshou withdrew his sword intent and looked at Pei Shaoxian. He smiled faintly and said, Even your first senior brother does not dare to speak to me like this. Pei Shaoxian, have you forgotten about that sword strike from back then? Pei Shaoxuan's face sank. When he thought of the sword strike on his chest, he did not say anything more. He said coldly, "Don't worry. No matter how strong you become, I will definitely take revenge for that sword strike from back then." The two people in the arena walked down somewhat dispiritedly. The two of them had lost to Ding Fengqiu in the previous Heaven Martial rankings. After 2 years of hard work, the gap between them and Ding Fengqiu had grown even wider. "We have to fight for a spot in the ancient desolate tower this time. Otherwise, if he gets in first, we will not have a chance to surpass him." The two of them thought to themselves. Only by entering the ancient desolate tower could they ensure that their strength could soar quickly or have a fortuitous encounter. Only then could they surpass Ding Fengqiu. As time slowly went by, the number of people in the courtyard increased. Many people gathered at the tables and chairs in the courtyard. The 100-odd people in the courtyard all found people they were familiar with. They gathered together and chatted in whispers. After a while, 4 old men walked into the courtyard. The leader of the group swept his gaze across the people in the courtyard. All the conversation stopped. He emitted a formless aura from his body. Unexpectedly, this old man was a bona fide martial monarch. The 3 people beside him were not simple either. They were all half-step martial monarchs. They were all experts. "Oldly, it seems like not everyone is here yet. The myriad fiend palaces Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya are not here yet," one of the people at the side said respectfully to the leader of the group after he looked around. Oldly went to a table in the middle of the courtyard and sat down. He said indifferently, "Then let's wait for a while. If Jiang Zimo does not come, the higher-ups will definitely gossip." The geniuses in the courtyard started to get excited. These 4 people were the upper echelons of the Heavenly Extermination Union. They were also the people in charge of the trial of the ancient desolate tower. How the spots for this batch would be decided was still a mystery. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Outside the Clear Spring Inn, Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya occasionally looked around as if they were looking for someone. Mu Xinya withdrew her gaze and said with some disappointment, "Zimo, it looks like the person you mentioned will not be coming." Jiang Zimo smiled helplessly and said, "Never mind, this is the first time we meet. He probably thinks that I'm up to no good. Let's go. It is not good to make the others wait for too long." On an extremely desolate peak of the Heavenly Spring mountain range, Xiao Chun was covered in wounds. He hung miserably from a tree. He held an illusionary ing grass in his hand as he panted. The inferior-grade inner vest on his chest was already in tatters. It had lost all its spiritual energy. There was a horrifying wound on his chest. The wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. Just taking a breath would cause intense pain. It could be imagined that if it wasn't for the defense of this inner armor, this wound would have directly split him in half. Xiao Chun placed the illusionary ing grass in his universe ring and said with a fatigued expression, "That dazzling Shadow Panther King should not be chasing us anymore, right?" 1 day ago, Xiao Chun had just finished dealing with 2 superior grade martial kings and was preparing to sweep away all the illusionary ing grass in the valley. Who knew? After Xiao Chun picked 10 illusionary ing grass and relaxed, he would be ambushed. That was a dazzling Shadow Panther King. It had lived for a long time and eaten many illusionary ing grass. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chun could not detect it with his spiritual sense. When Xiao Chun was preparing to pick the illusionary ing grass earlier, the killing chi he felt did not belong to Qin Pingyu or Xiao Chun. Instead, it belonged to this dazzling Shadow Panther King. Actually, Xiao Chun should have guessed it long ago. Given Qin Pingyu's cultivation, how could his killing chi be so dense from a distance of a kilometer? Xiao Chun could only blame himself for placing too much trust in his spiritual sense. In the end, a dazzling Shadow Panther King suddenly appeared. Xiao Chun could not detect it with his spiritual sense. Hence, tragedy struck. The dazzling Shadow Panther King's first attack tore through Xiao Chen's inner vest and left a huge wound on his chest. Xiao Chen's combat prowess plummeted. Furthermore, he could not detect the dazzling Shadow Panther King's position or figure. Caught off guard, Xiao Chun sustained injuries. If not for his body being tempered by a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, The dazzling Shadow Panther King would have torn him to shreds long ago. Shao Chun used his cloning technique and all his trump cards. After fleeing for a day, he finally managed to escape from danger. Shao Chun casually tossed away the inner vest on his chest and bandaged his wounds. Then he placed a medicinal pill in his mouth and started to treat his injuries. After this lesson, Shao Chun did not dare to be careless in the future. Even if his spiritual sense confirmed that he was in a safe place, he could not let down his guard. This world was very big. It was hard to say if there were any cultivators with tools that could evade spiritual sense. If Shao Chun was forced into a corner by a cultivator, he would not be able to escape easily. After half an hour, Shao Chun's injuries were mostly healed. Then, he called out his silver warship and flew quickly towards Heavenly Spring City. When Shao Chun saw the blazing sun above him, he felt somewhat anxious. Today was the 17th, and it was already noon. Shao Chun did not know if he could make it to the Clear Spring Inn. If he missed this opportunity, he would suffer a great loss. This was a fortuitous encounter that most geniuses could participate in. If Shao Chun missed it, he would fall behind by a long distance. There was already a gap in cultivation in the first place. It would be even more difficult to catch up. Furthermore, according to the cultivator in green, the ancient desolate tower was a place that even the geniuses of the Thunder King's generation had to go to. Shao Chun did not want to miss it. Shao Chun traveled at full speed for an hour before he finally arrived at Heavenly Spring City. Then, he rushed to the Clear Spring Inn, looking travel-worn. The inn looked the same as before. Business was booming. The sounds of people eating, drinking, and chatting filled the place. It did not look like anything major had happened. Shao Chun felt suspicious. He stopped a waiter and casually tossed a medial great spirit stone to him. He asked, "Is there a girl called Xia Yin or a man called Jiang Zimo in the inn?" The waiter caught the medial great spirit stone and said with a smile, "You must be here to ask about the ancient desolate towers candidates. However, you are too late. The Heavenly Extermination Union has already brought these people to Lonyang Island." Shao Chun felt somewhat disappointed. He immediately asked, "In that case, are Xia Yin and Jiang Zimo still around?" Naturally, they left together. The waiter continued, "However, the Jiang Zimo you mentioned stood outside for a long time in the morning. He forced the Heavenly Extermination Union to delay their selection by 2 hours. Because of this, he offended several young, outstanding talents." Shao Chun walked out of the Clear Spring Inn and looked at the sky above him. He appeared somewhat disappointed. Chapter 430. Jiang Zimo had already done all he could. Unfortunately, he was still lacking in luck. He was fated to not be able to enter the ancient desolate tower. Shao Chun smiled helplessly and said, "It looks like the ancient desolate tower does not welcome me. It was just an ancient desolate pass." Unexpectedly, a dazzling Shadow Panther King appeared. Shao Chun calmed himself and headed for the Heavenly Extermination Union branch. Since he no longer had a chance, he should not continue to be dejected. Not being able to enter the ancient desolate tower did not mean that he could not reach the peak of cultivation. No matter what, he could not let his mental state fall. The number of people in the Heavenly Extermination Union branch was much smaller than when Shao Chun arrived yesterday. This was somewhat surprising. When the old man behind the counter on the second floor saw Shao Chun arrive, his face was filled with surprise. He received the illusionary ingress from Shao Chun and smiled. "Brat, you managed to escape from a dazzling Shadow Panther King. Your strength is truly extraordinary." Shao Chun's expression changed. He said angrily, "You knew long ago that there was a dazzling Shadow Panther King. Why did you not warn me? Do you know that you nearly caused my death?" The old man shrugged and smiled innocently. "Young man, don't be so angry. Did you ask for my permission?" Shao Chun felt very depressed. This was a matter of life and death. Even if he did not ask, he should have warned him. The old man was clearly acting shamelessly. Since he could not do anything to him, Shao Chun could not be bothered with him anymore. He said, "Stop speaking nonsense. Give me the ancient desolate pass." The black-robed old man laughed loudly. He took out a white medallion and handed it to Shao Chun. He said, "This is the medallion I just made. is all rank 1. However, although there is no reward for your mission, it is already recorded. Xiao Chan received the medallion and looked at it. The words, Heavenly Extermination Union, were written on the front of the white medallion. Xiao Chen's name was carved on the back. After the black-robed old man handed the ancient desolate pass to Xiao Chan, he took out an engraved card and said, "This engraved card is an extra reward for you." After all, this illusionary grass mission was quite a headache. You helped me solve a big problem. What is it? Xiao Chen looked at the old man and asked suspiciously. The old man held the engraved card and gently knocked on the table. He smiled and said, "What is it? It is what you want now." Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh. He looked at the old man with interest and smiled. "Interesting. Do you know what I want now?" The old man said casually, "The ancient desolate tower." Xiao Chen's expression could not help but change. He did not think too much about how the old man knew. He pointed at the engraved card and said, "This thing can allow me to enter the ancient desolate tower?" The old man shook his head and said, "No, they only gave you a chance to compete fairly with others. Do you know why you did not receive an invitation from the Heavenly Extermination Union? It is because your cultivation is too low. White-robed bladesman Xiao Chun, you are quite famous in the Great Qi Nation. The upper echelon of the Heavenly Extermination Union noticed you long ago. However, at that time, your cultivation was too low. Even now, you're only an inferior grade Martial King. The minimum requirement for an invitation is to be a medial grade Martial King. As for whether to give you an invitation or not, the Heavenly Extermination Union split into 2 factions. They debated for a long time. You are very lucky. I happen to be on the faction that supports you." Xiao Chan had not expected such a small invitation to have so many tricks up his sleeves. "So, you did not tell me about the mission for the illusionary ingrass. Is this a test for me?" The old man nodded and said, "That's right. In fact, to obtain this ancient desolate pass, you just have to complete an ordinary mission. No matter what you choose in the end, I will give you the mission for the illusionary ingrass." You did not disappoint me. You were able to escape from the hands of the dazzling Shadow Panther King. You are definitely strong enough. Right now, Xiao Chan felt like he had gained something and then lost it. He originally thought that the ancient desolate tower was far away from him. Unexpectedly, he found an opportunity that was even more reliable than Jiang Zimmo's. Xiao Chun stretched his hand out to take the engraved card. However, the old man did not rush to hand it over. He smiled and said, "Don't blame me for not warning you this time. By taking this engraved card, you will only gain an opportunity. It does not guarantee you entry into the ancient desolate tower. The test you will meet might really take your life." Xiao Chan did not hesitate to take the engraved card. He said resolutely, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Tell me the details." The black-robed old man muttered to himself for a while before telling Xiao Chan the rules of this selection in full detail. There were simply too many geniuses from the 4 nations and the ancient desolate land. Even though the minimum requirement was to be a medial grade Martial King under the age of 24, there were still more than 1,000 people. This was more than twice as many as the previous elections. Hence, the selection changed from 1 round to 2. The peak geniuses from the 4 nations were split into 4 groups and brought to the 4 main islands of the Heavenly Extermination Lake. The first test was to obtain 60 victories in the A-rank matches of the main island's wrestling city. Everyone would have a chance to win 100 matches. The old man said indifferently, "The rank A wrestling rings are second only to the rank S wrestling rings. Aside from half-step martial monarchs and above, cultivators and demonic beasts of any cultivation realm will appear. Furthermore, these 60 victories have to be completed within 6 days. Completing it within 3 days meant that one would have to fight at least 10 matches a day. Furthermore, the cultivation of the opponents in these 10 matches would not be much weaker than one's." Xiao Chan thought to himself, "If this is the case, I will have to eliminate half of the people in the first round of the test." The old man continued, "After passing the first test, the remaining cultivators will gather in Desolate City. After that, they will compete in the arena for points. The 20 strongest participants will obtain the qualifications to enter the ancient desolate tower. Among the 1,000 geniuses of the various nations, only 20 would be selected. The odds were small. It was easy to imagine how intense the competition would be. Xiao Chun felt suspicious as he asked, why not invite the geniuses of the great Jin nation to the ancient desolate tower? This time, the people who came were all cultivators of the four nations and the local clans of the heavenly extermination lake. None of them were geniuses of the great Jin nation. Xiao Chun had his suspicions for a long time. The old man smiled and explained for a long time. Only then did Xiao Chun slowly understand. Aside from the great Jin nation, the other four nations had very few spirit veins. The density of their spiritual energy was worlds apart from that of the great Jin nation. Hence, in every five-nation youth competition, most of the top 100 of the Tianwu ranking were from the great Jin nation. The higher they went, the fewer people there were from the other four nations. Needless to say, the top 10 contestants were all taken up by the warriors of the Jin nation almost every time. No matter how talented the cultivators of the other four nations were, very few could break this rule. At best, they could only make it to the top 20. The myriad fiend palace controls half of the authority behind the Heavenly Extermination Union, and the other half is split between the four nations. The great Jin nation has nothing to do with it. Do you think that the other four nations would allow him to enter the ancient desolate tower after being suppressed so miserably by the great Jin nation? Xiao Chun said with some disbelief. Are the geniuses of the great Jin nation really that strong? The old man had a grave expression as he said, they're stronger than you imagine. With your current strength, it would be difficult for you to rank within the top 500 of the great Jin nation's younger generation. Xiao Chun did not refute this. He acknowledged this point as well. However, he did not feel too dispirited. All along, Xiao Chun had never thought that he was weaker than anyone else, even the geniuses of the great Jin nation. All he lacked was time. As long as he had enough time, he would trample on all these people and rise up in this budding era of geniuses. I have spoken enough nonsense. I will not speak any further. When you go to Wrestling City, hand this engraved card to the leader of the Heavenly Extermination Union. He will make the necessary arrangements for you. The old man waved his hand and dismissed Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun did not linger. He took his leave and quickly flew towards Longyang Island. Longyang Island was the core of the southern group of islands. Its position was equivalent to the capital of the great Qin nation. It was more than 2,500 kilometers away from Heavenly Spring Island. After checking the map carefully, Xiao Chun muttered, Jiang Zimo and the others should have been gone for more than 6 hours. There are many of them, so they will not be very fast. I might be able to catch up to them. After leaving the city, Xiao Chun soared into the air and tore off the blue strip of cloth on his forehead. Xiao! With a thought, a scarlet light lit up. The Scarlet Massacre throne appeared from nowhere. A thick scarlet cloud churned under the throne. The Massacre throne only needed to exhaust the state of Massacre in order to fly at an extremely fast speed. If one did not worry about the exhaustion, the Massacre throne could reach Mach 4. In the future, when the cultivation of the state of Massacre increased, the speed would increase even more. However, the state of Massacre was normally used for combat. If it was used for flying, it would be inferior in combat. Hence, under normal circumstances, Xiao Chun would not use the Scarlet Throne to fly. At this moment, the situation was urgent. Xiao Chun could not care so much. He sat on the throne and rode the scarlet cloud in the sky. A strong wind blew from the front. Xiao Chun leaned on the armrest and propped up his chin, appearing relaxed. After all, he did not need to exhaust his essence. He only needed to exhaust the scarlet pool in the throne. Furthermore, this was obtained after killing people. It had nothing to do with Xiao Chun's body. In order to avoid meeting other cultivators and attracting unnecessary trouble, Xiao Chun flew up to 10,000 meters. As Xiao Chun flew at full speed, the scarlet pool in the throne shrank at a visible rate. After flying for a long time, only a small portion of the scarlet pool remained. Then, Xiao Chun recalled the scarlet throne into his sea of consciousness. It was not easy to replenish the scarlet pool. After exhausting it, it would be even more difficult to replenish it. Xiao Chun was already close to Longyang Island. If he still could not catch up to Jiang Zimo's group, there was no need to force himself. It was better to keep some state of massacre as a backup. Xiao Chun slowly descended. The silhouette of a huge island appeared before Xiao Chun. This was the main island of the south, Longyang Island. The number of cultivators in the sky gradually increased. Most of them were in groups of 2 or 3, flying quickly towards the island. Xiao Chun looked up and discovered that all the cultivators who came to Longyang Island were flying in the same direction. This was the famous wrestling city of Longyang Island. It was a city made up of wrestling arenas of various sizes. The entire city was filled with blood and violence. Chapter 431. There were 4 other wrestling cities like this in the entire ancient desolate land. They were located on the other 3 main islands. Strange, there are more than 10 cities on Longyang Island. Why are all these people heading in the direction of wrestling cities? Xiao Chun felt confused as he looked at the departing figures. I really can't figure it out. Wrestling City has not held a large-scale rank A wrestling ring in the past 10 years. Who knows what is going on this time? They actually held dozens of matches. Who cares? The rank A wrestling rings are a great opportunity to earn money. If you win 10 matches in a row, you will be able to obtain 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. If you win 20 matches in a row, you will even get an inferior grade secret treasure. I heard that the rewards this time will be increased. I wonder if that is true. If it is, then they will be spending a lot of money. A group of cultivators who passed by Xiao Chun spoke excitedly about why they were going to Wrestling City. When Xiao Chun heard this, his expression sank. He looked at the sky and saw the cultivators rushing towards Wrestling City. He muttered, "The news has spread so far. It looks like I will meet many famous cultivators of the ancient desolate land in the first round." The full moon hung high in the sky, and the sky was dotted with stars. Under the bright moonlight, most of the stars were covered up. In a residence within Wrestling City, the 4 people in charge of the Heavenly Extermination Union led more than 200 geniuses from various places to a banquet. From tomorrow onwards, the cultivators below would start a cruel competition. They would be fighting high-intensity battles for 6 consecutive days. Hence, the people in charge of the Heavenly Extermination Union decided to hold a banquet to let everyone relax. At the same time, they would take the opportunity to answer some questions. Old Lee sat in the middle of the hall. Beside him were his 3 assistants. A long wooden table was placed in front of the 4 of them. There were also long wooden tables placed against the walls on both sides. Wine and snacks were placed on the tables. There were 3 or 4 cultivators behind each table. The cultivators chatted happily with each other, and the atmosphere was very lively. Seniorly, I heard that in the next 5-nation youth competition, the top contestants of the Tianwu ranking will be able to go to the upper realm. On the right side, a young cultivator put down the wine cup in his hand and respectfully asked Old Lee, who was on the stage. As soon as these words were spoken, the hall instantly quietened down, and everyone's gazes converged onto Senior Lee. The so-called upper realm was a mysterious place to everyone. Rumor had it that the land of the 3 holy masters was in such a world. No one knew what kind of world it was. In the Sky Martial Continent, it was said that only those with the strength of Emperor Wu could break through the void and go to the upper realm to have a look. Before reaching Emperor Wu's level, if one wanted to go up and take a look, they would have to participate in the 5-nation youth competition. Of course, not every 5-nation youth competition had such an opportunity. Only when the geniuses of the various nations reached their peak would they attract the attention of the upper realm. Then, they would be given such an opportunity. However, in the past few thousand years, there had been no news of anyone obtaining the qualifications to enter the upper realm from the 5-nation youth competition. The earliest 5-nation youth competition was 4,000 years ago. It was said that the young geniuses of the Thunder King's generation obtained such an opportunity in the 5-nation youth competition. 4,000 years was too long. The matter of that time had already become a legend. Now, the young cultivators could only make some guesses. They did not dare to confirm whether it was true or not. However, This five-nation youth competition had already revealed some suspicions. Not only would the various nations and powers of the Tianwu continent send people to participate, but even the distant shallow seas of the boundless sea had already become a legend. Even the four shallow seas in the distant boundless ocean were planning to send people to participate. If it wasn't for the fact that they had obtained the opportunity to go to the previous World Championships, they definitely wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion. When Old Li heard this, he smiled gently and said, "What I know, the supreme elders of the older generation of the sect behind you know as well. Since they did not tell you, naturally, I will not tell you either." "Why?" everyone asked, feeling confused. Old Li shook his head and said, "It is not the time yet. Now is the budding age of geniuses. Your generation has not matured yet. Telling you will only bring you harm. I can only say that if you all do your best, those with great luck will be pleasantly surprised." Jin Wuji and Ding Fengshuo sat at a table to the right, at the back. Jin Wuji felt suspicious as he said, "This is strange. Why does your tone sound exactly the same as Master's? First senior brother, Master dotes on you the most. Do you have any inside information?" Ding Fengshuo took a sip of wine. A deep look flashed in his eyes, making him look very mysterious. Ding Fengshuo put down his wine cup and shook his head. He smiled and said, "I'm not sure. Don't overthink this. If you're not strong enough, you might not end up well there." The banquet continued. During this time, someone asked about the rules of the Rank A wrestling ring. Old Li answered all of them, not hiding anything at all. "Once you go to the wrestling ring, this old man will not be in charge there. Let me make things clear first. If there is any danger, just retreat. Don't try to be brave. As for the rules, they are the rules of the wrestling ring. You do not have any special privileges. Just think of a way to obtain 60 victories." Dong, dong, dong. Just at this moment, urgent footsteps could be heard. An attendant outside the hall held an engraved card in his hand. He quickly walked over to Old Li and whispered something into his ear. Old Li's expression changed slightly. He instructed, "Go down first and bring him up. I'll take a look at him personally." A few of Old Li's assistants looked at the engraved card and said in astonishment, "Elder Huang's engraved card. Who is he protecting?" Old Li casually put away the engraved card. His expression was somewhat sullen. He said indifferently, "It's that brat who objected so strongly back then. I want to know why this old Huang wants to protect him so many times." When the outstanding talents in the hall saw Old Li's expression suddenly turned sullen, they could not figure out what was going on. They felt that something was going to happen. The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange, and the hall became extremely quiet. Everyone looked at the door outside the hall, wanting to see who had offended Old Man Li. Mu Xinyao whispered to Jiang Zimo, who was beside her, "Could it be that the person you spoke of is here again?" Jiang Zimo said softly, "It is hard to say. However, if it is really him, I will not be of much help. This Elder Li is not from our myriad fiend palace's faction." Ta, ta. Soft footsteps came from outside the door. Xiao Chun, dressed in blue robes and holding the lunar shadow saber in his hand, entered the hall with a calm expression. Xiao Chun looked around from the corner of his eyes and scanned the faces of everyone in the hall. He saw a few familiar faces. There was Xia Xian, whom he had fought with before. There was Jiang Zimo, whom he had met before. The silver-haired girl beside Jiang Zimo seemed familiar, but Xiao Chun could not recall where he had seen her before. There were also his two old friends, Jin Wuji and Ding Fengshuo. Unexpectedly, they were here as well. When Xiao Chun felt Jin Wuji's hostile gaze, he ignored it. The atmosphere in the hall did not seem right. Xiao Chun did not think too much about it. He raised his head and performed a cupped fist salute to Old Li. "Junior Xiao Chun greets Senior." However, Old Li ignored Xiao Chun's words. He smiled indifferently and said, "I personally believe that cultivation realm is the foundation of a cultivator. Back then, I was the one who suggested the threshold for medial grade Martial King. I really want to know why an inferior grade Martial King like you is here. Are you seeking death?" Xiao Chen's face sank. He remembered the words of the Heavenly Extermination Union's old man. It looked like he was unlucky. The old man in front of him was the one who opposed him back then. Go back to where you came from. Enter the wrestling ring and renew the life and death contract. Come back again when you're a medial grade martial king. It would be a pity if you fall here at such a young age. Don't think that after being famous in the great Qi nation for a while, you have great talent and can ignore the rules. The great Qi nation is always the weakest of the 5 great nations. When the people below heard old Li's words, their expressions became playful. It turned out that this person had used his connections to enter and compete with them for a spot. Unfortunately, his backer was not that strong. This old Li did not buy it, and ended up being humiliated instead. A quick-witted young cultivator could tell that old Li did not like Xiao Chun. He immediately followed along and mocked. An inferior grade martial king wants to compete with us for a spot in the ancient desolate tower? You overestimate yourself. The others immediately agreed. Indeed, go back. If you die in the wrestling ring, you'll have nothing left. This is not the great Qi nation. You are a peak genius there. Here, you are nothing. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. He did not care about the words around him. He only committed them to memory. He looked straight at old Li and said, "Cultivation is indeed the foundation of a cultivator. However, combat techniques, martial techniques, and cultivation techniques are equally important. They might even be more important than cultivation." Old Li snorted coldly and said, "Do you think you are qualified to speak to me? I do not need you to teach me what is the most important." Scram immediately. Jiang Zimo could not stand it any longer. He said, "Senior Li, as far as I know, Elder Huang took out his engraved card. He has the authority to recommend someone." Old Li seemed to be afraid of Jiang Zimo's identity. He did not refute him. What Jiang Zimo said was the truth. However, back then, he was the one who proposed the requirement to become a medial grade martial king. He was also the one who vetoed sending an invitation to Xiao Chun. Now that he had to agree to Xiao Chen's request, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. If he could persuade Xiao Chun to withdraw, he could say that Xiao Chun withdrew of his own accord. Elder Huang would not be able to do anything to him. However, looking at the current situation, Xiao Chun was very patient. Furthermore, Jiang Zimo had spoken up for him. It would not be good to chase him away. When old Li's gaze fell on Xiao Chun, he thought of a countermeasure. He smiled gently and said, "Very well, I will give you a chance. Since you say that combat techniques and cultivation techniques are more important than cultivation, then choose a person in this hall. Then choose someone from this hall. If you could defeat him within 10 moves, I'll give you this opportunity. Let everyone see just how brilliant your combat skills are." The hall was very quiet. Everyone looked at Xiao Chun with eyes filled with schadenfreude. Clearly, this person had offended old Li. It was impossible for Xiao Chun to defeat them within 10 moves. The weakest cultivator here was a peak medial grade martial king. Chapter 432. They were all top-notch geniuses in their respective sections. They did not lack high-rank cultivation techniques or martial techniques. As for the so-called combat techniques, they did not think that they were inferior to Xiao Chun. Jin Wuji laughed in a carefree manner. To think that this brat would have such a day. After being humiliated by the Heavenly Extermination Union's elders, the anger in his heart has lessened somewhat. A girl beside Xia Xian also smiled and said in a soft voice, "Senior sister, who is this person? He is just an inferior grade martial king. Why is he here?" However, Xia Xian's expression did not change much. She said, "Xiaorou, don't think that way. He is not an ordinary inferior grade martial king." A trace of killing intent flashed in Xiao Chen's calm eyes. He looked at Old Li and said, "May I know Senior's name?" Old Li said indifferently, "This old man is Li Xiuzhu. If you are afraid, you can leave. If you stay, you have to agree to my request." Li Xiuzhu, Li Xiuzhu. He firmly remembered this name in his heart. Xiao Chen swore that he would return today's humiliation 100-fold in the future. Without changing his expression, Xiao Chun said indifferently, "As you wish. I hope you will not regret your decision today." Li Xiuzhu smiled coldly and said, "I will regret it? This old man has seen many geniuses, and I've seen even more people like you who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even if I give you 10 years, you won't be a threat to me. Bang! Li Xiaozhu slammed the table heavily and snorted coldly. I will let whoever defeats him pass the first round. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd instantly burst into an uproar. All of them rushed towards Xiao Chun at the same time. If he directly passed the first round, not only would it be a pity that he could save a lot of energy, but he could also observe the various trump cards of others and not reveal his own trump card. There were many benefits, and they would be able to gain a great advantage in the second round of the arena battles. There was no one who wouldn't want this opportunity. Xiao. However, a figure rushed ahead of everyone else. It was the heavenly sword sex Jin Wuji. His gaze was fixed on Xiao Chun. The moment Li Xiaozhu spoke, Jin Wuji's figure appeared before Xiao Chun with a so sound. Ding Fengqiu's hand hovered in the air. He had just been about to stop Jin Wuji when he withdrew his hand. In such a short period of time, he had actually burst forth with such great speed, not giving him a chance to react at all. I can't even stop him. How foolish. Fine, if you want to send yourself over as a stepping stone, it's up to you. Ding Fengqiu shook his head as he drained the wine in his cup in one gulp. However, this was a good opportunity for him to see what cultivation realm Xiao Chun had reached. Jin Wuji's killing chi spread out uncontrollably. He smiled somewhat savagely and said, Xiao Chun, you did not expect such a day to come, did you? Back then, you sneak attacked me and trampled on me. You definitely did not expect that one day I would personally bury your hopes. Ha! Jin Wuji laughed heartily. Back then, on the island, he had been stepped on by Xiao Chun. He had not even been able to retaliate. That was simply a nightmare. After that, when he cultivated several times, Xiao Chun's appearance would appear in his mind, causing him to break down. Jin Wuji knew that this was a heart demon. Xiao Chun had already become his heart demon. If he did not deal with him personally, the heart demon would exist forever. His inner demons would always exist, and his strength would always be stagnant, and there would even be the danger of regressing. Now, as long as he could endure 10 moves, he would be able to destroy Xiao Chun's hopes of entering the ancient desolate tower. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity to deal with his heart demon. How could he not be in a good mood? Jin Wuji withdrew his smile and said with a sullen expression, White-robed bladesman, today, I will let you know that if you had not sneak attacked me, you would not have stood a chance against me. Xiao Chun flipped his palm, and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his right hand. He said indifferently, What a joke. Do you really think it was only because of a sneak attack? When Mu Xinya saw Xiao Chun take out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring, her expression fluctuated. She muttered, It really is him. Song Kei's palm strike did not kill him. From a moment Xiao Chun stepped into the hall, Mu Xinya's gaze never left Xiao Chun. This was because Xiao Chun's temperament was too similar to that of the person in her memories. Calm, decisive, and unhurried. No matter what happened, his expression would not change. No matter who he met, he would not be servile or overbearing. At this moment, when Xiao Chun took out the lunar shadow saber, the saber from Mu Xinya's memories, she could finally confirm Xiao Chun's identity. Senior sister, do you think that Xiao Chun can win? Xia Xian's junior sister, who was beside her, asked. Xia Xian replied uncertainly. It is hard to say. His overall strength is definitely stronger than Jin Wuji's. However, it will be too difficult to defeat him within 10 moves. Even I am not confident. Most of the cultivators present felt the same way. This Jin Wuji is lucky. He does not need to go through the first round. Li Xiaozhu sat calmly in his seat. He had a faint smile on his face. He did not have any expectations for Xiao Chun. Such an ignorant cultivator would not be able to achieve much in the future. Chi. Suddenly, a resonant sword hum resounded in the hall. Jin Wuji finally could not endure it any longer and made the first move. The tip of the sword pointed at Xiao Chun. The long sword trembled continuously, and the air rippled like water. A sharp metal concept was emitted from the sword's edge. Before the sword moved, the wind from the sword had already arrived. An unparalleled sharp sword intent shot toward Xiao Chun. It tore through the air and entered Xiao Chen's forehead, trying to break his heart and disrupt his mental state. The state of metal had only one attribute: sharpness. It was incredibly sharp. Based on Jin Wuji's aura, it was clear that he had cultivated the state of metal to great perfection. There is no more chance. Jin Wuji's state of metal has already reached great perfection. Although it has not reached peak consummation, it is impossible to defeat him within 10 moves, Xiaoxian sighed. The others in the hall all shook their heads. This battle was unfair from the start. Now, Xiao Chun had no chance at all. Li Xiuju's frown relaxed, and he relaxed completely. He muttered to himself, "The result is already decided." When Xiao Chun felt that sharp sword intent, he had an idea. He circulated the qi that he had not used before. Ever since Xiao Chun condensed his martial spirit, he had experienced failures, setbacks, tribulations, perplexities, and worries. This was the qi that only a bladesman possessed. Dang! A melodious clang resounded in the air. It was like divine weapons clashing in the air, giving off a heavy, vibrating sound that spread into the surroundings. Jin Wuji's sword intent was immediately blocked. The state of metal in the sword intent also vanished like smoke in thin air. Saber intent. When they heard the heavy vibrating sound and felt the qi from Xiao Chen's body, some of the people in the hall felt suspicious. Sabers were formed from swords. Saber intent was also derived from sword intent. However, it was even harder to comprehend than sword intent. If the chances of comprehending sword intent were 1 in 100,000, then the chances of comprehending saber intent were 1 in a million. Furthermore, in the past few thousand years, no one had heard of anyone comprehending saber intent before the age of 30. The 10 great bladesmen of the ancient desolate land had all comprehended saber intent at the age of 40. Only the generation of the Thunder King had such a talented bladesman. If one wanted to trace this back, it would be the Tianwu dynasty or even earlier, the ancient era. Ding Fengqiu's expression relaxed slightly. He said, "Fortunately, it is not saber intent. It is just a strand of qi. However, just a strand of qi can resist Jin Wuji's sword intent. How powerful would saber intent be?" The others in the hall also heaved a sigh of relief. If it was really saber intent, it would be a huge blow. Jin Wuji is not weak. If I want to defeat him under normal circumstances, I would have to fight him for more than 100 moves. If I want to defeat Jin Wuji within 10 moves, I have to catch him off guard. Then I have to charge forward like a ferocious tiger and crush him in one go, not giving him time to react. Coincidentally, I have a set of saber techniques that can be used in one go, the rushing thunder chop. Although it is of a lower rank, Xiao Chen's essence and state can make up for it. It is sufficient to deal with Jin Wuji. After scattering Jin Wuji's sword intent, Xiao Chen took advantage of the moment his opponent was stunned to raise his right foot by half a meter. Then he stomped down ferociously. Bang! This stomp merged vital qi and essence. Xiao Chen did not hold back at all. It contained 350 tons of force, and a crack immediately appeared in the ground. Boom! 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 The entire hall shook. All the wine on the wooden table shattered with a cac sound. The crack quickly extended towards Jin Wuji. Hu-chi! Hu-chi! A sharp energy that was half a meter tall soared up from the crack. As the crack extended, it charged straight at Jin Wuji. It was like a sharp knife trying to split Jin Wuji in half. The stunned expression on Jin Wuji's face turned into one of extreme shock. He had not expected Xiao Chun to suddenly make such a move. This was what it meant by catching the enemy off guard and attacking them when they were unprepared. Jin Wuji's body shook along with the ground. When he saw the energy rushing at him, he quickly dodged to the side. The energy passed by Jin Wuji and continued towards Li Xiuju, who was behind him. Li Xiuju remained expressionless as he stomped on the ground. The sharp energy instantly shattered into nothing. At the same time, the crack in the ground stopped. When it reached Li Xiuju's table, it was difficult to move an inch further. Xiao! Jin Wuji had just stabilized his footing when he saw Xiao Chen's right hand grasping his saber hilt. Xiao Chen's eyes were as sharp as an eagle's as he rushed at him. Dong! 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 Xiao Chen's footsteps sounded like thunder. He moved as fast as lightning, creating a strong wind. Jin Wuji could not keep his eyes open. Jin Wuji had a bad feeling in his heart. He pushed off the ground and retreated. Can I retreat? It is already too late. Xiao Chun snorted coldly in his heart. His right hand, which was on the saber hilt, swung out. Drawing the saber, it was like a bolt of lightning had shot out from the scabbard. The purple light was so dazzling that it hurt everyone's eyes. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Jin Wuji quickly spun his sword and held it horizontally in front of his chest, blocking this sword strike. Dang! The saber and sword clashed, giving off intense sparks and a chi-chi sound. As he ran, Xiao Chen's aura was raised to its peak. On the other hand, Jin Wuji, who had lost the initiative and wanted to retreat, lost most of his aura. Jin Wuji's arm felt numb, and his sword trembled. He nearly lost his grip on it. Arc Light Chop. Xiao Chun activated the blood flame shoes, and his speed increased explosively. In an instant, he arrived at Jin Wuji's side. The lunar shadow saber sent out a strange arc light. The arc light flickered with electricity. Chapter 433. Retreat. The arcs of light sealed off all points of attack. There was no weakness at all. There was no way for Jin Wuji to counterattack. Jin Wuji retreated again. No, I cannot retreat anymore. If I do, my momentum will plummet, Jin Wuji thought anxiously. I have to attack and regain control of the rhythm. Jin Wuji's sword trembled as he started to gather his killing move. Just as he was about to attack, he saw Xiao Chun charging at him with a saber. If Jin Wuji did not retreat, his chest would be pierced by Xiao Chun in the next moment, and he would die without a complete corpse. Retreat. How hateful. Jin Wuji felt extremely depressed. He scattered his killing move and retreated once more. Xiao Chen's figure paused in the air. As he looked at the retreating Jin Wuji, it was like he had frozen. Rushing Thunder Chop. In the next moment, there was an explosion behind Xiao Chun. It shook off all the dust on the roof, and his aura instantly soared again. Carrying the boundless might of thunder, Xiao Chun chopped down with his saber. It was like rolling thunder. Jin Wuji was horrified. This saber descended like lightning, not giving him a chance to dodge at all. Its aura locked onto him, as if it knew where he would land. Sword light flashed, and Jin Wuji expended his essence without any regard for his life. He quickly created layers of solid sword screens, trying to block this saber strike. However, his momentum was already exhausted. No matter how strong the sword screens were, they were useless against Xiao Chen's saber strike, which had reached its peak. Bang! 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 The layers of sword screens were easily broken. The surging energy shot out in all directions. The many cultivators quickly made their moves to block. Pusiai. The saber energy entered Jin Wuji's body, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. His complexion was extremely pale. Rushing Thunder, second chain chop. After Xiao Chun landed, he did not hesitate. The lightning-attributed energy that he had accumulated for 4 moves burst out ferociously. The electric light on his saber instantly became extremely resplendent. Jin Wuji did his best to block, but he was still knocked back by this saber strike. His clothes were in tatters, and his skin was mangled. Jin Wuji fell miserably to the ground. The electricity on his body had not dissipated yet, crackling nonstop. The surroundings were silent. The martial artists who had previously mocked Xiao Chun were all stunned. Xiao Chun did not even use 10 moves. He only used 5 moves to defeat Jin Wuji. Even if he included that kick, it was only 6 moves. Bang! Li Xiaozhu was so angry that his face turned red. He smashed the wooden table in front of him into wood shavings. He looked at Jin Wuji, who had just climbed up with great difficulty. His eyes were filled with disgust. Trash! You cannot even deal with an inferior-grade martial king. What qualifications do you have to participate in the selection? Scram! From a distance, Jin Wuji suffered a heavy blow. He vomited a large mouthful of blood and flew out of the hall. Then, he rolled a few times on the steps before coming to a stop. Li Xiaozhu glared at Xiao Chun before getting up expressionlessly. Without saying anything, he quickly left the place. Li Xiaozhu left in a huff, and his 3 assistants left one after another. Naturally, the banquet ended on an unhappy note. Inside the hall, the outstanding talent from all over no longer looked at Xiao Chun with the same gazes as before. They no longer viewed him as a strong competitor. Their expressions were somewhat depressed. It was not a good thing to have another competitor in the intense election. There were still 10-odd people in the hall, but their eyes burned with a fierce fighting spirit. They did not fear challenges. The more opponents they had, the more excited they would be. Pei Xiaoxian, what do you think? The Holy Fire Manor's young manor lord, Lung Yun, asked indifferently as he looked at the beast taming abodes Pei Xiaoxian. Pei Xiaoxian played with the scarlet ring on his index finger gently. He said softly, "He is very strong, but there is no need to be too shocked. If you can catch him off guard, you could defeat Jin Wuji in 10 moves." Lung Yun nodded and said, "Naturally, I understand this principle. However, it's a pity that it's a little difficult to seize the initiative against a cultivator whose cultivation is not lower than his. This is where this person is brilliant." Pei Xiaoxian stood up. Before he left, he said indifferently, "The 100 battles are all real. You can catch him off guard once or twice. However, if you want to fight continuously, your foundation is the most important. I will see you tomorrow." The outstanding talents in the hall discussed the earlier battle for a while before they left. Since the banquet was over, there was no need for them to remain here. Xiaoxian led her junior sister over to congratulate Xiao Chun. She said, "Congratulations. It looks like I have another competitor for the ancient desolate land slot." Xiao Chun smiled gently and said, "Miss Xia, you are exaggerating. In a battle between us, we would only have a 50-50 chance of winning." "Humph. My first senior sister comprehended sword intent at the age of 16. Now, she is a superior grade martial king. She also cultivates a peak earth-ranked cultivation technique. Her martial techniques are also peak earth-ranked martial techniques. She is not inferior to anyone in the same generation. Don't overestimate yourself. Don't overestimate yourself," Xiao Rou, who was beside Xiaoxian, said in dissatisfaction when she heard Xiao Chun comparing himself to Xiaoxian. In her opinion, Xiao Chun was able to defeat Jin Wuji in 6 moves. Although he was very strong, it was mostly due to his trickery. If it were not for that kick catching Jin Wuji off guard and causing him to lose the initiative, then forcing him to retreat again and again, it would have been impossible for Xiao Chun to defeat Jin Wuji within 10 moves. However, Xiao Rou did not think that being able to catch an opponent of the same cultivation realm off guard and seize the initiative was a display of strength. When Xiao Chun looked at Xiao Rou, he did not get angry. He could tell that she was trying her best to protect his first senior sister. She was like a little girl worshipping her idol. When Xiaoxian heard this, she glared at Xiao Rou. Then, she said apologetically, "Sorry, this little fellow always speaks without thinking. Don't mind her." Xiao Chun smiled faintly and did not say anything. "I will take my leave first. See you tomorrow." Seeing that Xiao Rou still wanted to say something, Xiaoxian quickly pulled her to the side and took her leave. Xiao Chun sheathed the lunar shadow saber and did not linger. He prepared to leave. The battle in the wrestling ring tomorrow would be the real start. This was just an appetizer. "Brother Xiao, please wait a moment." Just as Xiao Chun reached the threshold of the hall, Jiang Zimo called out to Xiao Chun. Then, he walked over with Mu Xinya. Although Xiao Chun understood Jiang Zimo, this person had helped him time and time again. This made Xiao Chun want to make friends with him. This was especially so when Jiang Zimo risked offending Li Xiaozhu and spoke up to help him. Compared to those people who tried to curry favor with Li Xiaozhu, Jiang Zimo was even more valuable. Stopping, Xiao Chun turned around and performed a cup fist salute. He said, "Many thanks to Brother Zimo for helping me earlier, helping me obtain this opportunity." Jiang Zimo smiled gently and said, "It is just a small matter. I am not afraid of Li Xiaozhu. He would not dare to do anything to me." Jiang Zimo sounded very confident. It seemed like he had a strong power behind him, something that even Li Xiaozhu feared. Xiao did not continue with the pleasantries. He directly said, "Why are you looking for me? If there is anything I can help you with, just ask. In that case, I will remember what you said. If there is nothing, I will look for you." Jiang Zimo smiled and pointed to the silver-haired girl beside him. He said, "She is the one looking for you. I will take my leave first." After Jiang Zimo left, Xiao Chun looked suspiciously at the silver-haired girl before him. Although she looked familiar, Xiao Chun did not remember seeing this girl before. "Speaking of which, do we know each other?" Xiao Chun asked probingly. Mu Xinyao looked at Xiao Chun and revealed a bitter smile on her exquisite face. She said, "If I tell you, will you kill me again?" Xiao Chun was shocked. When he heard the other party's voice, he finally recalled who this silver-haired girl was. Back then, in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this girl had disguised herself as a human girl, Mu Xinya, for the sake of rescuing the imprisoned Heavenly Wolf King. They had interacted with each other for more than a month. No wonder this girl's gaze never left me the moment I entered the hall. She must have found me familiar. When Xiao Chun thought about the events of that day, it was still vivid in his mind. The pleading expressions of the miners appeared clearly in his mind. However, Xiao Chun already had a different view of the events of that day. Those miners were sacrificed by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion on purpose. It was hard to tell who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Collecting his thoughts, Xiao Chun shook his head and replied, "No, I do not wish to mention the matters of the past. Everyone has their own beliefs. It is just that their point of view is different." When Mu Xinya heard this, she heaved a sigh of relief. She said, "Can we have a chat?" Xiao Chen nodded, and the two of them flew out. Outside the hall, Jin Wuji's clothes were tattered. He lay on the ground in a sorry state. Occasionally, electricity would flicker on his body. The bones in Xiao Chen's chest caved invisibly. That was a palm strike from Li Xiuzhu filled with rage. As a bona fide martial monarch, this palm strike caused more damage than Xiao Chun. Furthermore, Xiao Chun had injured Jin Wuji. Without half a year of recuperation and miraculous medicine, it would be difficult for Jin Wuji to recover to his peak state. To these geniuses, wasting half a year was an extremely cruel thing to do. It might result in a gap that they would never be able to cross. When the cultivators passing by saw this scene, they felt that the world was like a game of chess. The universe was unpredictable. 15 minutes ago, Jin Wuji was the envy of everyone. As long as he did not lose in 10 moves, he would be able to pass the first round easily. However, 15 minutes later, an inferior-grade Martial King defeated him in 6 moves. If news of this spread, his reputation would be ruined. Furthermore, Li Xiuzhu made a move to injure Jin Wuji, disqualifying him from being a candidate. This was like adding snow to snow. It was a tragic sight. Everyone remembered this lesson. In the future, they could not underestimate any cultivator with a lower cultivation. They could not guarantee that it would be another Xiao Chun. Jin Wuji, lying on the ground, was the best example of how miserable their fates were. Ding Fengshou slowly walked over to Jin Wuji and sighed to himself. Jin Wuji was completely crippled. He had lost the qualifications to compete with the top geniuses forever. In this age of geniuses, where the age of geniuses had just sprouted, this was undoubtedly a tragedy. I told you long ago, it is important to know one's limits. If you're not strong enough, don't use the Heavenly Sword Gate to show off. You are asking for it if you're crippled. Ding Fengshou placed his palm on Jin Wuji's chest and circulated his essence. The electricity in Jin Wuji's body was immediately sucked into Ding Fengshou's palm. Chapter 434. Ding Fengshou raised his palm, and a ball of lightning-attributed spiritual energy gathered on his palm. The unconscious Jin Wuji's expression immediately relaxed. Bang! Ding Fengshou casually waved his hand, and the ball of lightning landed on the ground. It blasted a huge pit and kicked up a cloud of dust. What a strong lightning-attributed energy. This person might be cultivating a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. Otherwise, he would not have such surging energy as an inferior-grade Martial King. Ding Fengshou frowned slightly as he muttered to himself. Furthermore, This was only the remnant energy. If he used it at full power, it would be even stronger. It had to be said that Ding Fengqiu's eyes were very good. With just the remnant energy, he was able to roughly guess Xiao Qin's true strength. Ding Fengqiu, I told you long ago not to bring out trash. Now, you have embarrassed yourself. The beast-taming abodes, Pei, Xiaoxian laughed loudly as he walked over. You're seeking death. Ding Fengqiu's expression turned cold. He formed 2 fingers on his right hand into a sword and pointed at Pei Xiaoxian. Xiao! The sword at Ding Fengqiu's waist hummed and quickly came out of its scabbard. Under his control, it carried a surging sword intent as it flew at Pei Xiaoxian. Woo! Woo! The sword hummed in the air. Water-like ripples spread out from the sword. It seemed like space itself turned blurry. Pei Xiaoxian's expression changed. He had not expected Ding Fengqiu to make a move. He quickly formed hand seals with both hands. A circular formation appeared in front of Pei Xiaoxian. An ape with skin as hard as steel blocked Pei Xiaoxian's path. Bang! As soon as the ape appeared, a huge bloody hole was opened up in its chest by the long sword. The sword pierced through its body, and it couldn't be any more dead. Uchi! Pei Xiaoxian had not expected Ding Fengqiu to break the steel ape, which had a high defense, in an instant. Pei Xiaoxian did his best to dodge. However, the sword still managed to leave a deep wound on his right arm. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Soon, his entire right arm was dyed red. It looked very scary. Pei Xiaoxian, on account of your first senior brother, I will not kill you immediately. In the future, you better watch your mouth. The people of the Heavenly Sword Gate are not for you to speak. Kacha! Ding Fengqiu waved his hand, and his sword returned to its scabbard. He picked up Jin Wuji's body and left without even looking at Pei Xiaoxian. As Pei Xiaoxian watched Ding Fengqiu leave, he revealed an extremely hateful gaze. The grudge between him and Ding Fengqiu had started long ago. During one of his fortuitous encounters, he had been severely injured by the other party while fighting for a natural treasure. The other party had even stolen all of his treasures, and he had always viewed it as a great humiliation. Otherwise, he would not have dealt a heavy blow to Jin Wuji in the previous 5-nation youth competition and eliminated him in a sorry state. After that, he retracted his gaze and stopped the sword wound on his arm. He squatted down and pointed the red ring on his right hand at the steel ape lying in a pool of blood on the ground. Chi-chi, with a flash of red light, the steel ape's corpse and blood were sucked into the ring. Kacha-kacha! A series of hair-raising sounds came from the ring. It was very strange. The full moon hung high in the sky, like a silver plate adorning the night sky. Xiao Chun and Mu Xinya sat on a roof in the city. Although they were chatting, Mu Xinya was the one speaking most of the time. Xiao Chun had a rough understanding of what happened after she left the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. After inheriting the Heavenly Wolf King's power, Mu Xinya's strength increased rapidly. Now, she was already a peak superior grade Martial King. The most important thing was that she did not have any bottlenecks. As long as she absorbed the Heavenly Wolf King's power, her strength would continue to increase. Her potential was unlimited. When fighting with others, she could draw on the Heavenly Wolf King's power. Even if she faced a half-step martial monarch, she would still be able to hold her own. She would not be like Xiao Chun, who had no chance and could only find an opportunity to retreat. Because of her, the Heavenly Wolf race, which was in a precarious situation, obtained a large amount of resources from the Myriad Fiend Palace. The overall strength of the Heavenly Wolf race increased by the day. Yichun, did you know? That month in the underground world was actually the most ordinary period of my life. Mu Xinya raised her head and looked at the bright moon in the sky. The moonlight shone on her silver hair, adding a faint glow to it. It looked somewhat dreamy. Haha. However, I cannot stop. The burden of the clan rests on my shoulders. There are 20 spots in the ancient desolate tower. I must obtain one. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. In that case, I wish you success. I must obtain one of the 20 spots. Mu Xinya smiled. In that case, let's work hard together. When the time comes, we will work together in the ancient desolate tower. With our tacit understanding, We might be able to reach a height that no one has ever reached before. I'm leaving. Thank you for chatting with me for so long. I can finally let go of the burden in my heart. Mu Xinya waved her hand at Xiao Chun. Then, she jumped off the roof and landed far away. Xiao Chun stood up and looked at the distant Mu Xinya. He sighed softly. There are more than 1,000 peak geniuses. Just in this group, there are geniuses among geniuses like Ding Fengqiu, Jiang Zimo, and Mu Xinya. These 20 spots will not be easy to obtain. However, no matter what, he had to obtain these 20 spots. The ancient desolate tower had a total of 9 floors. Back then, the genius Thunder King had made it to the 7th floor before he rose up. In the past few years, although there were not many people who made it to the 5th floor, they had all obtained great benefits. Some of them had a great increase in their cultivation. Some had obtained ancient heaven-ranked martial techniques or heaven-ranked cultivation techniques. There were also those who had reached a bottleneck in comprehending martial techniques. They had a huge breakthrough in there, and their combat prowess had increased greatly after they came out. It would not be an exaggeration to say that without the ancient desolate tower, it would be very difficult for the cultivators of the 4 nations to enter the top 50 on the Tianwu ranking. The next day, just as dawn broke, the light of dawn shone on every corner of Wrestling City. More than 200 outstanding talents from all over the world were already waiting in the great hall of Old Li's residence. Xiao Chun stood in a corner of the crowd, waiting calmly for Li Xiuzhu to arrive. This was only the first round of selection. He believed that he had the strength to clear it. After a while, Li Xiuzhu walked out from the back of the great hall. Aside from his 3 assistants, there was an unfamiliar cultivator beside him. That person wore tight cultivator robes. His muscles were bulging, making him look very strong. He looked to be in his 40s and was actually a half-step martial monarch. There was a faint scar on the right side of this person's face, giving him a ferocious aura. His eyes were dim and lifeless, making him look very sinister. Li Xiuzhu found Xiao Chun in the crowd and smiled coldly. Then, he withdrew his gaze and said, "Let me introduce everyone. This is Wrestling City's City Lord, Gao Yangyu. We will not be in charge of what happens next. 6 days from now, I will be in charge of counting the people who won 60 matches. I will bring those who meet the criteria to Desolate City and meet up with the people from the other 3 groups for the 2nd round of selection. Those who do not meet the criteria will be sent home." After Li Xiuzhu spoke, he did not care about anything else. He led his 3 assistants and left, leaving the scene to Gao Yangyu. Gao Yangyu looked at the crowd calmly. With a flip of his hand, a stack of contracts appeared. Then, he silently distributed them to the crowd. Xiao Chun took a look at the contract. It was a life-and-death contract. The general content of the contract was that he was willing to participate in the A-rank wrestling matches. His life and death had nothing to do with Wrestling City. Let me state this first. Wrestling City does not have much of a relationship with the Heavenly Extermination Union. They have no control over me. In fact, I only received news about you people wanting to participate in the A-rank wrestling matches a week ago. I will not give you any special privileges. You will be the same as the other cultivators participating in the A-rank wrestling matches. Your life and death will be up to fate. If you want to participate, you will have to sign this contract first. After Gao Yangyu finished distributing the contracts, he spoke calmly. Li Xiuzhu had already told everyone about this. The outstanding talents present all had calm expressions. They did not hesitate to sign the contracts. Perhaps there might really be deaths in the A-rank wrestling matches. However, everyone here was an outstanding talent. They were all very strong. Who would think that they would be the ones dying? After signing the life and death contract, Xiao Chun lined up at the back of the crowd. He was the last to hand the contract to Gao Yangyu. Gao Yangyu looked at the name on the life and death contract. He could not help but glance at Xiao Chun. An undetectable killing intent flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chun could clearly feel this killing intent. However, his expression did not change as he slowly moved to the back. Xiao Chun had no grudges with Gao Yangyu. Logically speaking, Gao Yangyu could not possibly have any killing intent towards him. The only possibility was that Li Xiuzhu had left some instructions for him. It looks like this old thing really wants a fight with me. Xiao Chun thought to himself coldly. I will endure this for now and keep an eye out. After Gao Yongyu put away the contract, he appeared very satisfied. He smiled faintly and said, Very good. No one is absent. I wish you all good luck in advance. Gao Yongyu twisted the ring on his right hand, and space fluctuated intensely. Suddenly, a door of light appeared in the hall. Let's go. Gao Yongyu took the lead and stepped into the door of light. None of them were ordinary cultivators. They knew that this was a rarely seen teleportation door. There was nothing to be surprised about, so they all followed suit. As usual, Xiao Chun was the last to enter. When he stepped into the door of light, he felt a mysterious energy pull his body infinitely. All the sensations disappeared. It felt like only an instant, but it also felt like an eternity. Xiao Chun finally regained control of his movements. Roar! 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 Just as Xiao Chun found his footing, he heard earth-shattering shouts. The sounds did not stop for a long time. Xiao Chun looked up and discovered that he and the others were in a majestic wrestling ring. The circular wrestling ring was at least 10,000 square meters in size. It was surrounded by a ring of spectator stands. The 10,000 seats were all occupied. It was very lively. Gao Yongyu gathered everyone together and pointed in a direction. He said, Later, 1,000 demonic beasts will charge out from the cages over there. There will be a total of 200 iron medallions in the bodies of the 1,000 demonic beasts. You have to kill the demonic beasts and obtain the iron medallions before you can truly qualify to fight in the Rank A wrestling ring. Chapter 435. Everyone looked in the direction of Gao Yongyu's finger. They saw countless scarlet eyes flashing in a pitch-black space behind a metal railing. A strong aura came from inside, accompanied by the roars of beasts, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Damn it, they are all rank 7 demonic beasts. When someone sensed the rank of the demonic beasts inside, his expression changed drastically. He was clearly horrified. Gao Yongyu smiled faintly and said, That's right. They are all rank 7 demonic beasts. Furthermore, they are extremely hungry. One rank 7 demonic beast was not scary. Everyone here could deal with it easily. However, 1,000 rank 7 demonic beasts, even if they split the rewards evenly, everyone would have to fight 4 rank 7 demonic beasts alone. Furthermore, they would have to split their attention to snatch the iron medallion. That would be extraordinarily dangerous. Xiaoxian's expression turned grave. She said softly to Xiaoro, Don't get separated later. Follow me closely. Although Xiaoro was strong, she did not have much experience. The 1,000 Sword Pavilion's plan was to let her undergo experiential training and try her luck. Perhaps she could even enter the ancient desolate tower. However, the 1,000 Sword Pavilion did not expect that they would meet with such danger at the start of the selection. The other people in the crowd also looked for companions. Under such circumstances, it was too dangerous to be alone. Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya also sent invitations to Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun shook his head and rejected them. He knew that they were helping him out of goodwill. However, he had the advantage of speed and was not afraid of such a situation. There was no need to owe them a favor. Gao Yongyu was very satisfied with the atmosphere. After he stopped the discussion, he said, After you obtain the iron medallion, you can be challenged by anyone here. As long as you're not a half-step martial monarch, you can challenge them. All you need to do is defeat these challengers and obtain 60 victories. Open the gates. Without giving the crowd any time to react, Gao Yongyu jumped out of the dojo and waved his hand. The iron railing holding the 1,000 rank 7 demonic beasts immediately opened. Boom, boom, boom. Intense footsteps resounded as all the demonic beasts rushed out. Blood dripped from their mouths as they charged at the crowd with bloodshot eyes. Thousands of demonic beasts crawled on the ground and flew in the sky. There were wind-attributed, fire-attributed, ice-attributed, all sorts of demonic beasts. All of a sudden, they all rushed over together. Black chi soared into the sky, blotting out the sun. Their imposing manner was incomparably terrifying. The crowd did not hesitate in the slightest as they rapidly retreated. At this time, no one dared to test the sharpness of these demonic beasts. When a demon beast that was starving to the extreme suddenly smelled the scent of humans, it became several times more ferocious than usual. No one would be so stupid as to wantonly attack it now. Retreat. Everyone used their own movement techniques to retreat and quickly spread out. Boom, boom, boom. However, there were simply too many demonic beasts. The entire wrestling ring could only accommodate this group of demonic beasts. Soon, there were cultivators fighting the demonic beasts. For demonic beasts surrounded Xiao Chun. One of them was a scarlet steel snake that was as thick as a bucket and had steel-like spiritual scales. It was tens of meters long. 2 flame wolves covered in black chi walked on their hind legs, and an extremely fierce lightning bull stood on all fours. Hu Chi, the incredibly fast scarlet steel snake, took the initiative to attack. It opened its huge mouth and shot toward Xiao Chun, wanted to swallow Xiao Chun whole. Xiao! Xiao Chun pushed off the ground and activated the blood flame shoes. His speed reached Mach 3.5, drawing a purple arc in the air. Xiao Chun's figure flickered and landed on the scarlet steel snake's head. Then he stomped on it. Dang! Dang! A huge force landed on the scarlet steel snake's head, giving off an intense metallic sound. Xiao Chun stomped the scarlet steel snake's upper body into the ground. Rumble! A deep pit appeared in the ground. Cracks extended in all directions. Xiao Chun stood in the air. His ankle felt somewhat numb. However, he did not feel that the scarlet steel snake had suffered any fatal injuries. The rank 7 demonic beast scarlet steel snake was famous for its defense. Its scales were as hard as superior-grade frost iron. Swords and spears could not break them, making it very difficult to deal with. Chi, a purple bolt of lightning shot over quickly. It was the lightning bull attacking as well. 2 flame wolves covered in black flames followed the bolt of lightning and charged over. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and pulled back his palm. The purple bolt of lightning turned into a whirlpool and quickly gathered in his palm, turning into a clump of fierce purple flames. Without the protection of a state, Xiao Chun could absorb as much lightning-attributed energy as he wanted. Xiao Chun took a step forward and did not advance. Instead, he retreated and punched at the 2 flame wolves. A purple flame spread out from his fist, encasing the 2 flame wolves. Demonic beasts were very intelligent. The 2 flame wolves originally intended to take advantage of the time Xiao Chun blocked the lightning to charge up and attack. Who knew? Xiao Chun did not fear the lightning at all. With a flip of his palm, he withdrew the lightning. After the 2 demonic beasts charged up and attacked, they would remain in that state forever. Boom! The purple flames clashed with the black flames around the flame wolves, giving off intense heat. Then, Xiao Chun's punch knocked the purple flames back to the ground. After tumbling a few times, the flame wolves climbed back to their feet in a sorry state. Their fur was scorched, giving off black smoke. Roar! Roar! When the lightning ox saw that the lightning it was so proud of could not harm Xiao Chun, it became anxious and pressed its huge body toward Xiao Chun. The physiques of demonic beasts were generally stronger than those of human cultivators. When clashing head-on with their physical bodies, humans would usually be the ones at a disadvantage. Many demonic beasts like to use this move. If used well, they could even cause internal injuries to cultivators. Unfortunately, the lightning ox met with Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun clenched his fists, and the image of a tiger and a dragon circled around his arms. The roars of the tiger and dragon resounded continuously. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Xiao Chun shouted and crossed his arms, taking on the lightning ox's frenzied charge. Bang! There was a loud sound of collision. Xiao Chun did not move at all. No matter how fast the lightning ox moved, it rebounded with a huge force. Dragon hisses, tiger roars. With the power of the crouching tiger, hidden dragon, Xiao Chun moved and arrived beside the lightning ox. Then, he punched the lightning ox, which had just gotten up. Roar! 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 When Xiao Chun punched, boundless tiger roars and dragon roars resounded endlessly. The sounds were ear-splitting, and intense explosions came from the lightning ox's body. Hoochie! Hoochie! The lightning ox retaliated with all its might. Electricity lit up all over its body, giving off a purple light. Boundless electricity danced around in the surroundings. As the electricity surged, Xiao Chen's hair and clothes fluttered continuously. There were even faint traces of electricity moving about, giving off a zhi-zhi sound. Xiao Chen did not show any fear. He punched the lightning ox's body with his right fist. Following the roars of the tiger and dragon, he punched the lightning ox continuously. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated rapidly in Xiao Chen's body. His left hand continuously absorbed the electricity, forming a spinning whirlpool of electricity. After a while, the internal organs of the lightning ox were completely shattered by Xiao Chen's punch. The electricity finally dissipated. The scarlet metal snake and the flame wolves took advantage of this opportunity to pounce over. The three demonic beasts executed their best moves. The scarlet metal snake's long tail swept down with a heavy force. The two flame wolves had black flames burning on their claws, leaving long black flaming tails in the air. Xiao Chun turned around and retreated. As he looked at the fierce purple flame on his palm, a strange thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Could I use this purple flame to execute the life bestowal spell? In theory, the life bestowal spell could make use of anything. When it reached great perfection, it could even make use of the air. Since he thought of it, there was no problem trying it out. Xiao Chun used his spiritual sense to split off a strand of purple flame and quickly made it into a soaring lightning fire goshawk. Hoochie! Xiao Chen's right hand formed hand seals as the mental energy in his sea of consciousness drained continuously. The essence liquid in the chi whirlpool also diminished at a visible rate. Using energy to execute the life bestowal spell actually drained twice as much. It could also be understood as merging essence and mental energy together. Xiao Chen shouted and executed the life bestowal spell. The lightning fire goshawk immediately came to life. When it spread its wings, it was 10 meters wide. The goshawk crashed into the snake tail, descending from the sky. There was a casse sound, and the scales, which were as hard as frost iron, shattered. The entire snake tail broke from the impact. It really works. It is actually so strong, Xiao Chun said with a smile, revealing a joyful expression. When Gao Yangyu, who was in the spectator stands, saw this scene, his expression changed slightly. This move seems to have merged essence and mental energy. How did this brat do it? How could the mental energy of a martial king not be able to withstand the explosive essence? This was a technique that only martial monarchs could grasp. Even a half-step martial monarch like Gao Yangyu could only barely grasp it. The lightning ox was already dead, and the scarlet metal snake was severely injured. Xiao Chen only had to face 2 flame wolves. Victory was basically in the bag. As long as Xiao Chen's luck was not too bad, an iron medallion should appear within the 4 demonic beasts. However, the one with the most dazzling performance was not Xiao Chen, but someone else. The many cultivators in the spectator stands all focused on the battle in the wrestling ring. They wanted to see who was worth betting on. Chapter 436. Wrestling City had been in operation for over 100 years. It had already formed a very commercialized chain of events. Not only could the challengers obtain generous prizes, but it was also very profitable. Not only could the challengers obtain bountiful prizes, but the ordinary spectators could also participate in the various competitions organized by Wrestling City. Wrestling City was only 5 kilometers away from the island's main city, Longyang City. Every day, tens of thousands of cultivators would come to watch the fights. The total flow of people was more than 1 million. Almost everyone would go down the mountain to place a few bets. Even if each person only bet a few hundred medial grade spirit stones, the bets would reach hundreds of millions of medial grade spirit stones. That was a very large sum. Not only could they earn some extra income, but they could also watch some strong combat techniques in the wrestling rings. Wrestling City was very attractive to cultivators. Look, Ding Fengshou already obtained an iron medallion and left. The Heavenly Gate defensive sword is indeed extraordinary. Suddenly, someone in the spectator stands exclaimed. Not bad. He is strong enough. He managed to pierce through a vital point with one strike. He is indeed strong. I will place my bets on him after today's competition ends. The beast taming abodes Pei Xiaoxian obtained an iron medallion as well. What a fellow! He controlled 7 or 8 rank 7 spirit beasts by himself. He completely crushed them. Jiang Zimo and Mu Xinya obtained iron medallions as well. It looks like the 3 experts of the Myriad Fiend Palace's younger generation are not undeserved. The Holy Fire Manor's young manor lord obtained an iron medallion as well. Lung Yun has been famous in the southern islands for a long time. It is not strange that he obtained an iron medallion so early. Some of the young experts who had been famous for a long time obtained an iron medallion and leaped out of Wrestling City. The moment these people entered the arena, they displayed a strong aura. After killing a few demonic beasts, no more demonic beasts dared to attack them. They went to look for weaker opponents. Their auras grew stronger as they fought. It was a tragedy for those who were weaker. The number of demonic beasts surrounding them increased. The originally difficult situation became even more difficult to deal with. Several people did not even have time to give up before the demonic beasts tore them to shreds and devoured them. Xiao Chan fought 4 demonic beasts alone. He did not even draw the lunar shadow saber. With his strong aura, no demonic beast dared to find trouble with him and take the initiative to attack him. Xiao Chan shifted his target to the other cultivators who were still struggling bitterly. The 2 flame wolves finally fell under Xiao Chen's iron fists. Xiao Chan broke open the corpses of the demonic beasts and discovered that his luck was not ordinary. 4 demonic beasts had actually allowed him to obtain 2 iron plates. However, no matter how many iron medallions there were, 1 was enough. As Xiao Chan prepared to leave, he discovered that Xia Xiyin and her junior sister were still blocking the attacks of 7 or 8 demonic beasts. Xia Xiyin already held an iron medallion in her hand. Unfortunately, her junior sister had too little combat experience. She was already flustered when dealing with 2 demonic beasts. When 4 or 5 demonic beasts attacked together, it was even more dangerous. He had no choice but to think of ways to help her deal with them. With Xiao Rou dragging them down, the number of beasts surrounding them increased. Initially, there were 4 beasts, but now there were 8 of them. If this dragged on and the number of demonic beasts increased, even Xia Xiyin would find it hard to escape. Xiao Chen hesitated for a while before deciding to help. No matter what, when he first arrived at Heavenly Spring Island, Xia Xiyin had given him a good impression. Furthermore, this was not something that would require much effort. If he could help, he would. There was no harm in making more friends in the future. Bang! Xiao Chun pushed off the ground heavily and leaped into the air. With the help of the blood flame shoes, his figure moved at lightning speed. With a whip kick, he sent a demonic beast surrounding Xia Xiyin flying. Half of the demonic beast's head caved in. When it fell to the ground, it could not be more dead. This shocked Xia Xiyin and Xiao Rou. Seeing Xiao Chun help, Xia Xiyin could not help but rejoice. She said, "Many thanks, Brother Xiao, for helping." Xiao Chun nodded gently and did not say anything more. He tossed an iron plate to Xia Xiyin and said, "Bring your junior sister away. I'll hold off these demonic beasts first." When Xia Xiyin heard this, she rejected. "No way. There are still 7 demonic beasts. How can you hold them off by yourself? Even if you can, you will have to expose some of your trump cards." "That's fine. I have the advantage of speed. There is no need to be afraid. You go first." Xiao Chun smiled faintly and sent out a few sharp fist winds, attracting the attention of the 7 demonic beasts. The pale Xiao Rou heaved a sigh of relief. When she saw Xiao Chun attracting the attention of the demonic beasts alone, she felt somewhat embarrassed. She had not expected that Xiao Chun, whom she had looked down on, had already obtained 2 iron plates. He even gave one to her. Now, he even helped her lure all the demonic beasts away. Seeing Xiao Chun lead the demonic beasts far away, Xia Xiyin said to Xiao Rou, "The other demonic beasts are about to surround us. Take the iron plate and leave first. I will help him kill the demonic beasts. No matter what, I cannot owe him too much." Xiao was not insensible. She knew that she would not be of much help. So, she quickly took the iron plate and flew away. The 7 demonic beasts launched all sorts of attacks at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun used his advantage in speed to dodge, dodging most of the attacks. As for the few attacks that were too concentrated, Xiao Chun simply blocked them. The larger the attack range, the weaker it would be. There was no problem blocking them. Kassier. Just as Xiao Chun was about to break through, a sharp sword light flashed. Blood spurted out, and a flame wolf's head flew into the air. However, Xiaoxian turned back and landed beside Xiao Chun. Xiaoxian did not say anything. Her sword light danced, and she danced around like a butterfly. She moved about the demonic beasts as she pleased, appearing graceful and natural. However, her sword chi was very dense and imposing. Furthermore, it was complemented by sword intent. Its might was startling, unlike her movement technique. When Xiaoxian swung her sword, no matter how strong the demonic beasts were, they would be significantly injured. The weaker ones would have their limbs chopped off. This was Xiaoxian's true strength. Without Xiao Rou holding her back, the first batch of people to obtain the iron plate would definitely have Xiaoxian's name on it. Xiao Chen did not intend to leave immediately. He clenched his fists and relied on his strength and the strong defense of his physical body to fight the demonic beasts. With the 2 of them working together, the 7 demonic beasts slowly fell. The 2 of them took some time to extract their demonic cores. In the end, they discovered that the 7 demonic beasts did not even have an iron plate. Xiaoxian felt somewhat fortunate as she said, "Fortunately, you helped me deliver an iron plate. Otherwise, after so much effort, we would not even have obtained an iron plate." Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, "Sometimes, luck is just like that. It is hard to say. Let's go." Xiao. Just at this moment, a man landed beside the 2 of them in a hurry. He smiled at them and said, "Help me block them for a while. I'll leave first." The expressions of the 2 of them changed. They saw 10 odd demonic beasts chasing after them aggressively. This fellow had actually used Xiao Chun and Xia Xian as a shield. The lines on the blood flame shoes suddenly lit up. Xiao Chen's speed increased to Mach 4. With a shio sound, he arrived in front of that person. Before that person's astonished gaze, Xiao Chen kicked out and said expressionlessly, "Scram." Xiao Chen's speed was too fast. That person did not even have a chance to react. The kick struck his chest and sent him flying back into the encirclement of the demonic beasts. Xiaoxian took advantage of this opportunity and dashed forward. The 2 of them flew out of the wrestling ring one after the other and arrived at the spectator stands specially prepared for the participants. In the spectator stands, there were already 100 people who had obtained an iron medallion. They sized up Xiao Chun for a while before returning their attention to the wrestling ring. In the wrestling ring, 60 or 70 people were bitterly holding on. Forced by the situation, they had to work together to fight against the remaining 300-odd demonic beasts. Actually, as long as these people jumped out of the wrestling ring, even if they did not have an iron medallion, they would not receive any punishment. At most, they would automatically forfeit. Dozens of corpses littered the wrestling ring. Some demonic beasts cruelly devoured these corpses as tens of thousands of people watched. Dying without a complete corpse, reduced to food, this was the most tragic fall of geniuses. When Xiao Chun saw this, a ripple appeared in his calm heart. In this budding age of geniuses, geniuses were like fish in the river, emerging in an endless stream. To those talented cultivators, this was the best age. Only in this age could geniuses find a stage that belonged to them. They could shine brightly and leave their names in history. Just like the Tianwu Emperor who founded the Tianwu dynasty. Just like the Thunder King from thousands of years ago. Even after tens of thousands of years, they were still remembered by history. This was also the worst age. Normally, the people here would be the ones who led the tide of the age. However, now, even the geniuses that appeared once in 100 years were no different from the crowd. If you did not work hard, you would be eliminated by the times, losing the opportunity to shine on this stage. The owners of the corpses in the wrestling ring had all thought of giving up when they were alive. However, Once they gave up on this opportunity, they would be left behind. In this age, they could only be a spectator. To these proud and aloof geniuses, who would be willing to be a nameless spectator? Xiao Chun clenched his right fist tightly and muttered to himself, "The age of geniuses is here. Since I have come to this world, I cannot be a spectator." 300 rank, 7 demonic beasts surrounded 67 cultivators. The battle could no longer be described as intense. It was extremely miserable. Another 10 cultivators obtained an iron medallion and broke through the encirclement of the demonic beasts, returning to the crowd. What surprised Xiao Chun was that the cultivator who wanted to use him and Xia Xiyin as a stepping stone was actually one of these 10 people. After that cultivator arrived, he looked at Xiao Chun with a sullen gaze before slowly walking into the crowd. Xia Xiyin said, "Don't underestimate him. He is the second disciple of the great Xia nation's Lamenting Valley's Valley Master. His Lamenting Palm is very powerful. He probably did not want to reveal his trump card, so he delayed obtaining an iron medallion." Xiao Chun nodded in agreement. In reality, he had hidden his strength as well. If he drew his saber, he was confident that he would be one of the top 10 people to obtain an iron medallion. After a while, no one else obtained an iron medallion. Instead, many of the cultivators who persisted died. Gao Yangyu shook his head and said to the people beside him. After a while, 10 half-step martial monarchs landed in the wrestling ring. Their strong auras merged together and pressed down on the rank 7 demonic beasts. Uchi, the previously insufferably arrogant rank 7 demonic beasts, felt fear before this strong aura. They all retreated. Chapter 437. Dong, dong, dong. The 10 of them did not make a move. They only slowly walked forward and chased the demonic beasts back into the prison. The remaining people knew that they no longer stood a chance. Their expressions were very dispirited. They all left the wrestling ring through another exit with ashen faces. This was no longer a stage that belonged to them. Gao Yangyu withdrew his gaze and looked at the crowd. He smiled and said, "This really exceeded my expectations. There are actually more than 100 people who qualified. The rank A wrestling ring has never seen such a grand scene before. The wrestling ring will officially begin in 2 hours. According to the rules, you will all receive rewards based on the number of victories. Someone will inform you about this later. Now, go and register your medal medallion numbers." A manservant of the wrestling ring led the crowd to a basement and started to register. At the same time, there was someone who gave everyone a rough explanation of the wrestling ring's reward system. For every victory, they would receive 300 inferior grade spirit stones. It did not seem like much, but if they could win continuously, the reward would be doubled. After 2 consecutive victories, the reward would be 600 inferior grade spirit stones for the second match, 900 for the third match, 1,200 for the fourth match, and 1,500 for the fifth match. If a person could win continuously, winning 100 matches in a row, the reward would be astronomical. Just thinking about it was horrifying. No wonder the wrestling ring could make so many cultivators go crazy. Under the stimulation of the huge rewards, there would be some intense battles. Originally, the people who did not pay much attention to the rewards became excited when they heard about the rules of consecutive victories. This was not a small sum. No matter which sect or power it was, they would not be able to give out medial grade spirit stones without limit. However, Xiao Chun felt that it was not that simple. If there really was a cultivator who could win so many matches in a row, the wrestling ring would suffer a huge loss. Indeed, that person continued, "Ha, don't think that consecutive victories are that simple. The current record is 60 consecutive victories. Furthermore, no one has been able to achieve that in the past 100 years. The registration did not take long. There were still 2 hours before the official wrestling ring started. Everyone closed their eyes and recuperated, recovering to their peak condition. In a tall tower in the dueling ring, Gao Yangyu held the registration information of the crowd and distributed it to the surrounding old men. Find a few special people and advertise them. Just say that these people have a chance of breaking the 60-win streak. I want the bets on these people to reach 50 million medial grade spirit stones within 3 days. The few old men said awkwardly, City Lord Gao, will people believe this kind of propaganda? Gao Yangyu laughed loudly. Can I trouble you to read through the information first? These are all the peak geniuses of the various nations. This wrestling ring is the first round of selection for the ancient desolate tower. If you spread this news, I estimate that the ticket sales will double. After saying that, Gao Yangyu revealed a somewhat depressed expression. He slapped his forehead and sighed softly. Unfortunately, I only received the notice a week ago. Furthermore, the rules state that I cannot leak this information in advance. Otherwise, the spirit stones we earned this time would be enough for us to rest for 10 years. After that, an old man came over excitedly with a stack of information. He smiled and said, City Lord, what do you think of this person? He is the white-robed bladesman Xiao Chun. He once defeated the geniuses of the noble clans in the great Qin nation. He even defeated the outer disciples of the Holy Lands. Previously, he snatched away a peak superior grade demon corps in front of 10-odd half-step martial monarchs in the demon battlefield. They are all very good names. With a little packaging, they will be the biggest names. Gao Yangyu received the information and tossed it on the table without even looking at it. He said coldly, Don't bother with this brat. No one is allowed to advertise him. Don't ask for the reason. The few old men exchanged glances. They did not understand what Gao Yangyu meant. 2 hours later, everyone had basically recovered. The earlier match was like a warm-up. After stretching their muscles, their bodies had returned to their peak condition. Gao Yangyu did not appear again. Instead, an older, gray-robed old man led everyone out of the basement and back to the spectator stands. The gray-robed old man stood in front and said, There are only 10 matches on the first day. Just consider it a warm-up. In the next 5 days, there will be 18 matches every day. Later, all of you will go up one by one according to your assigned numbers. Xiao Chun looked at his own medal medallion. There were the words 15 carved on it. It was an average ranking. Dong, dong, dong. The moment the group walked out of the wrestling ring's passageway, they heard the sound of drums that stirred their hearts. The drums sounded like thunder, beating rhythmically. It was unknown what these drums were made of, but the sound was resonant and grand. It made everyone's blood surge and their fighting spirit soar. They felt like their blood was on fire. Xiao Chun looked up and discovered that the drums were coming from the 4 tall towers around the wrestling ring. With the sound of these drums, the atmosphere of the crowd had already been stirred up. The crowd was very excited and surging endlessly. This is the peak grade heavenly tone war drum. It is said that it is made from the skin and tendons of the 1,000-year-old flood dragon, a rank 10 spirit beast. With the sound of the drum, it can stimulate one's fighting spirit and erupt out with even greater combat prowess than usual. The outstanding talents who knew their stuff all exclaimed in astonishment. A 1,000-year-old flood dragon was as strong as a peak martial sage. Furthermore, it was omnipotent. It was very hard to find one. The gray-robed old man smiled faintly and said, This is not the heavenly tone war drum. It is the superior grade golden cauldron war drum. Its function is the same as the heavenly tone valleys, but its effects are much weaker. You are not qualified to bring out the heavenly tone war drum. Only rank S wrestling rings would bring out the heavenly tone war drum. The drumming became even more intense, but the old man did not say anything more. Who is number 1? Quickly come forward. A young cultivator in the crowd took a deep breath and leaped out of the spectator stands. The drumming instantly stopped. The young cultivator performed a cupped fist salute to the spectator stands and said in a loud voice, Great Chu Nation's purple brilliant sex Yun Ping seeks your guidance. The gazes of the tens of thousands of cultivators in the spectator stands immediately focused on Yun Ping. Countless senses were directed at him. Some people withdrew their senses and shook their heads in disdain. Some people were interested, and so were deciding whether to go down and fight. Xiao, not long after, a bald cultivator with a sword on his back flew over from the spectator stands in the south. When he landed, he did not make a sound. Clearly, this person's control over his strength had already reached a certain level. Xiao Chun checked this bald cultivator's cultivation. He was a superior-grade martial king. However, his aura was extremely vast. This person probably cultivated a superior-grade earth-ranked cultivation technique. He should be quite strong. After the two of them performed cup fist salutes, they immediately started fighting. At this moment, the drums suddenly started to sound. Then, according to the rhythm of the battle, the drums fluctuated. They grasped the audience's heartstrings tightly, causing the tens of thousands of spectators to be affected by the drumming. They formed a formless connection with the battle. It was like they were in the battle. The battle continued for 15 minutes. Yin Ping easily defeated the bald cultivator. The battle was very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. After the bald cultivator landed, he walked over to Xiao Chan dispiritedly. Then he handed the gray-robed old man 150 medial grade spirit stones. The gray-robed old man explained, "The challenger has to hand over half of the spirit stone reward of the challenged. If he wins, he will obtain 300 medial grade spirit stones." The matches continued. Yin Ping's aura flourished. He won 9 matches in a row. His reward had already doubled to 2,700 medial grade spirit stones. This was a significant sum. As long as Yin Ping won one more match, he would be able to end today's matches perfectly. At the same time, he would be able to obtain 3,000 medial grade spirit stones. The moment the 9th match ended, someone eagerly jumped into the wrestling ring. This person did not control his strength at all. When this person landed, the ground gave off a loud pong-pong sound, kicking up a large cloud of dust. It was very ostentatious. The person who arrived had a sword at his waist. He had a sinister look on his face. He smiled gently and said, "Yin Ping, right? I will take your 3,000 medial grade spirit stones. Remember my name, Xiaoyang." Yin Ping mocked, "Do you think that is possible?" Dong! The war drums rang out, and the two immediately clashed. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed in the air. Xia Xian said softly, "This Yin Ping's 9 consecutive victories will probably come to an end." The battle had just started. How could Xia Xian come to such a conclusion so quickly? Xiao Chan asked suspiciously, "Why do you say that?" Xia Xian smiled gently and explained, "I have been to Wrestling City a few times. This Xiao Yang is quite famous here. He likes to make a move when his opponent has just obtained 9 consecutive victories. He rarely fails. Hence, he is nicknamed the 10-Victory Terminator." 10-Victory Terminator? Unexpectedly, there is such a nickname. Xiao Chan laughed hoarsely. It looks like without some strength, it would be difficult to obtain such a nickname. Xia Xian nodded and said, "He has been a superior grade martial king for a long time already. His attainments in sword techniques are no weaker than a regular genius. The most important thing is that the state he comprehended is very strange. It is similar to the state of Lamenting Valley. It can affect one's emotions." This was the first time Xiao Chan heard of a state that could affect one's emotions. He could not help but feel interested as he watched the battlefield carefully. As the two spoke, they had already exchanged 10 moves. Yin Ping could tell that his opponent was strong. He also knew that he had exhausted a lot of essence after fighting 9 consecutive battles. It was not good to drag this out. Hence, Yin Ping used every move he made. He wanted to end the battle quickly. However, Xiaoyang appeared very relaxed. He moved around like a monkey, choosing not to clash head-on with Yin Ping. He continuously exhausted Yin Ping's energy and patience. Yin Ping tried to catch his opponent a few times to force him into a head-on battle. However, Xiaoyang nimbly escaped. Xiao Chun muttered to himself as he looked at the other party's movement technique and analyzed it in his mind. What an exquisite movement technique. It seems like he can sense the direction of his opponent's attacks from any part of his body. However, it is useless against my Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. In the face of absolute speed, he cannot use tricks to break through force. Chapter 438. It's time to end this. Lose. Xiaoyang, who had been dodging for a long time, suddenly stopped. His eyes turned incredibly sharp as he thrust his sword forward. The sword whistled, creating a long trail of fiery red light in the air. That was an incredibly dense, fire-attributed essence. However, Yin Ping did not panic. Instead, he laughed. You are seeking your own death. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You should be the one to lose. Cha! Cha! Just as Yun Ping was about to use his powerful killing move, he suddenly felt fear in his heart. When he saw his opponent's eyes, he felt even more fear. There was no reason for this fear. It lingered on, throwing Yun Ping's mental state into chaos. Originally, he only needed 3 breaths of time to execute his killing move. However, he did not manage to do so for a long time. Compared to the chaotic Yun Ping, Xiao Yang's aura was even more condensed. Xiao Yang knocked away Yun Ping's weapon with his sword. Then, his sword, which contained surging fire-attributed essence, exploded on Yun Ping's chest. Bang! A bloody hole appeared in Yun Ping's chest as he fell to the ground. Blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth, and a cold sword rested on his neck. Yun Ping was astonished. He could not accept such a result. However, Xiao Yang laughed loudly and said, I said before, your victory ends here. Come again tomorrow. Pray that you do not meet me then. Xiao Yang sheathed his sword and walked over to the gray-robed old man. He took away the 3,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Before he left, he casually glanced at Xiao Chun. When Xiao Chun felt that gaze, he felt it was strange. It was because that gaze was not friendly. Xia Xian said suspiciously, This fellow seems to be targeting you. Did you offend him in some way? Xiao Chun said indifferently, I'm not sure. However, I am not afraid. I have already figured out what is going on with his state. Aside from that strange state, this fellow is actually not much stronger than Yin Ping. However, Yin Ping appeared very anxious because of the last battle today. He had wanted to end the fight in one move. In the end, he was led by the nose by his opponent. In the end, when Yin Ping became completely restless, the other party suddenly attacked and hit him with one strike. Yin Ping's defeat was not undeserved. Dong dong dong. The war drums continued to beat. The battles for numbers 1 to 14 were in full swing. In the following battles, there were a few exciting ones. Everyone who came out won at least half of their matches, but none of them managed to win 10 matches in a row. If they didn't lose a match halfway through, then they would lose the crucial final match due to their bad mentality and be ended by their opponents. Who's number 15? Hurry up. Finally, it was Xiao Chen's turn. Xiao Chen gently touched the ground with his toes and landed steadily on the drill ground. I'm the great Qi nation's Xiao Chen. Everyone, please enlighten me. Xiao Chen cupped his hands and said to everyone, Xiao. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure quickly landed in the wrestling ring. When he landed, the ground trembled violently. It was extremely ostentatious. It was Xiao Yang, who had defeated Yun Ping and was known as the 10 Winds Terminator. Xiao Yang sized up Xiao Chun. When he saw that Xiao Chun did not carry a weapon, only a pair of black gloves, he curled his lips and said, A fist master? That's good too. I have not fought with a fist master in a long time. I, Xiao Yang, will fight you. Strange, why is Xiao Yang going down? This fellow rarely appears during the first match of others. I have not seen Xiao Yang in a few years. Xiao Yang appearing in the first match is really rare. Indeed, when did his character change? 300 medial grade spirit stones should not interest him. This brat might have offended Xiao Yang before. This brat is in for a treat. Losing in the first match will be a huge blow to his morale. The cultivators and the spectator stands frequently came to Wrestling City. They were very familiar with Xiao Yang. When they saw him going down in the first match, they were confused. In a room at the top of a tall tower behind the wrestling ring, Gao Yangyu looked expressionlessly at the figures of Xiao Chun and Xiao Yang. He muttered, Brat, don't blame me for being ruthless. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for slapping Li Xiuzhu in the face. That old fellow is famous for being petty. An old man at the side could not help but say, City Lord Gao, are you really going to let this brat lose every match? Do you want him to lose 100 matches? Gao Yangyu shrugged his shoulders and said, Li Xiuzhu has already spoken. What do you expect me to do? Don't forget, he is in charge of the Heavenly Extermination Union's taxes. There is nothing wrong with offending someone. This brat deserves to be unlucky. Just follow my instructions. The old man nodded slightly. However, he shook his head and smiled bitterly to himself. Losing 100 matches, this brat is truly unprecedented. With such a great humiliation, he will probably be crippled for life. This Li Xiaozhu is too ruthless. He actually thought of such a vicious plan. As Xiao Chun looked at the evil expression on Xiao Yang's face, he did not feel any waves in his heart. Now that Xiao Yang was in this wrestling ring, no matter who he was or why he came here, Xiao Chun only cared about one thing. That was an enemy. There was no need to think about anything else. All he had to do was knock Xiao Yang off the wrestling ring. I'm sorry. Given my status, it is indeed unfair for me to make a move against you. However, I was entrusted to do so. Don't blame me. Right after Xiao Yang spoke, he looked sharply at Xiao Chen's reaction. He wanted to see through this calm youth. However, Xiao Yang was disappointed. From the start to the end, Xiao Chen's mental state did not fluctuate at all. His expression was incredibly calm, as if he did not care about his opponent at all. Xiao Chen said indifferently, "There is no need for you to apologize. You're not qualified to apologize either." Haha, interesting. The corners of Xiao Yang's lips curled up. He smiled and said, "I want to see what capabilities you have to say such big words." Dong, 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 dong. The war drums, which had been silent for a long time, finally started beating passionately once again. It made everyone's blood surge and their spirits surge. When Xiao Chun was in the wrestling ring, he finally felt the might of the golden cauldron drum. The sound of the drum resounded in his ears, and his blood surged uncontrollably. Xiao Chen's aura gathered on its own, rising continuously. It was like he was in an ancient battlefield. His heart was filled with lofty aspirations, and he only wanted to fight with all his might. However, if he did that, he would fall for the wrestling ring's trick. The purpose of the Golden Cauldron Drum was to make the challengers go all out in every match, going all out without realizing it. Every match would result in a lot of unnecessary exhaustion. In the long run, one's essence would be exhausted, and it would be very difficult to continue winning. Xiao Chen's vast spiritual sense turned into an ancient bell in his sea of consciousness. It gave off a drawn-out chime, and he immediately calmed down. Uchi. After observing for a long time, Xiao Yang could not find any openings in Xiao Chun. He took a step forward and drew his sword. He had no choice but to take the initiative to attack. Xiao Chun did not dodge. He took a step forward and punched. A pure energy clashed with Xiao Yang's sword. Bang! Bang! The fist wind and the sword chi clashed continuously, giving off explosions in the air. Xiao Yang passed through the shockwaves created by the explosions and thrust his sword at Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chun tilted his head slightly and dodged this sword. When the sword brushed past his face, he used 2 fingers on his right hand and flicked the sword heavily. Boom! A huge force came from Xiao Yang's fingers, spreading from the tip of the sword to the hilt. The sword started to tremble. Xiao Yang felt like the sword in his hand was trying to struggle free. His body could not help but be pulled forward by the force of the sword. What a strong force! Xiao Yang had not expected Xiao Chun to be so strong. He did not seem like an inferior-grade martial king at all. Xiao Yang was caught off guard and suffered a small disadvantage. However, he did not panic. Xiao Chun accurately calculated the moment Xiao Chun landed. He shouted and clenched his right hand into a fist, punching out. Xiao Yang had a relaxed expression. He was not too shocked. He executed that strange movement technique again. The instant Xiao Chun moved, Xiao Yang sensed the direction of his attack. Xiao Yang pushed off the ground and quickly retreated in the opposite direction. This strange movement technique, which allowed Xiao Yang to predict the future, had caused Yun Ping's killing moves to miss several times during their fight. Now, Xiao Yang used it on Xiao Chun, dodging in advance. Xiao Chun stopped and stored up power in his fist. He looked at the retreating Xiao Yang and smiled gently. Can you dodge? Blood Flame Shoes, activate. Xiao. Xiao Chen's speed instantly increased to Mach 3. 5. Xiao Yang had just stabilized his footing when he discovered an intense fist wind, accompanied by the roars of a tiger and a dragon, flying at him. Retreat. Xiao Yang was startled. He executed his strange movement technique again. He perfectly calculated the direction of Xiao Qian's next attack and quickly retreated in the opposite direction. However, Xiao Qian stopped and changed his direction. Then, he immediately attacked again. Boom, boom, boom. Accompanied by the roars of a tiger and a dragon, Xiao Qian punched out with both fists. The fist wind was like a torrential storm as it flew at the retreating Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang executed that strange movement technique to its limits. However, no matter what he did, he could not shake off Xiao Qian. Every time he retreated, he would suffer a sharp fist wind. Xiao Yang brandished his sword and a fiery light flickered. Although he managed to negate a portion of the fist energy, the remaining fist energy struck his body. The accumulated injuries could not be underestimated. When many cultivators in the spectators' stand saw this scene, astonishment flashed in their eyes. They had not expected this. The originally expected scene of Xiao Yang easily crushing his opponent did not happen. Instead, a nameless brat pressured the 10 Victories Terminator into a miserable state. Scram! Xiao Yang finally realized that his movement technique was useless against Xiao Qian. After Xiao Yang made up his mind, his sword lit up with a fiery light. Then, he clashed with Xiao Qian's fist wind. Xiao Yang accurately calculated the force of Xiao Qian's fist wind. If Xiao Qian dared to clash head-on, he was confident of inflicting a great loss on him. Xiao Qian said indifferently, "You are the one who should scram." The purple chi whirlpool spun rapidly. Surging essence poured into Xiao Qian's right fist through his widened meridians. Boom! The instant the essence and vital chi merged, an intense wind burst out of Xiao Qian's fist, stirring up small tornadoes in the air. Xiao Qian's punch instantly contained 350,000 kilograms of force. Bang! 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 The rapid increase in strength exceeded Xiao Yang's expectations. It was like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. It shattered the fiery red essence energy on the sword, causing it to crumble and fall apart.